We're back again.
Hello. I'm back. Sorry about that.
Oh dear. Let's see.
What did I miss over the past month?
Well, nothing. It's fine. Same old, or something like that. Right. Where are we? Should we just get into the introduction? So, for those that are new here, this is Humpday Q&A, where we help answer your Flutter and Dart questions. And today we're going to have some guests on and live coding and the usual Q&A. So we'll do the segments we're going to do a bit of chit chat to get your answers and questions in. Get your questions in, and then we'll jump on to some Q&A, and then we'll try and end that as soon as we can, because then we can get to some live coding within a reasonable time period, so we're not here forever, which does happen sometimes. So, all right, let's get going. Scott.
All righty. Hey, be nice, be respectful, be constructive while on YouTube. Yes, I know. Do it anyway. Don't post anything that is adult, rude, offensive. Come on, that's common sense. Don't advertise or promote anything. We know you need a job. Post it in the Flutter community Slack. Don't spam the same question repeatedly. Every time we see a question, it goes to the bottom of the list, even if it was already on the list. You lose your place in line for nagging us. Harassment of any kind is not tolerated, obviously. If you do anything like bigotry, misogyny, etc., you're out of here. And we share ban lists with a whole bunch of other Discord, Slack, etc. So you really don't want to get on that list. Lastly, have a good time. This is supposed to be fun.
Have a good time. All right. Let's see if we can get our faces up here. There we go. Right. My name's Simon Lightfoot, Flutter Community Lead and CTO at Dev Angels London, a small developer agency based, funny enough, in London. And you can follow me on Twitter at Dev Angels London, right above. Scott.
My name is Scott Stahl. I am also Flutter Community Lead with about 25 other people, double other. I also am co-organizer of GDG Cleveland. and running around doing some speaking here and there. I will be in Stockholm for Flutter and Friends. And we, in this house, we also rescue older pit bulls. So go get yourself an older pit. Wonderful. They're faithful and they're stuck in a cage. Don't have a home.
And we've got someone else here. Randall, welcome to the stage.
Hey, hi, I'm Randall Schwartz. I'm a Dart and Flutter Google developer expert for over 5 years now. I can now actually use over since it just passed the anniversary. And I spend a lot of time answering questions for y'all on Discord and Reddit and Stack Overflow and Slack. But I also, for this show, I do answer questions occasionally when Simon actually pauses for a second.
Yes.
And that's rare. It's very rare.
Thanks.
But I'm mostly the question magician for this show, which means that I am watching the chat. I am watching for a Q colon in the front of your chat, and I will put it in our queue. Oh, there's a horrible pun every week. But I'll put it in the queue, and then we'll get to it eventually. We take them in the order that we see them, unless you say the same thing twice, in which case you go to the bottom of the list, as Scott just said. So there we go.
We also have Danielle. Danielle, welcome to the stage.
Hey, everybody. Glad to be back. It's always a high point of my week. Anyway, I'm Danielle Cox. I'm the Flutter tech lead at a company called Ardley, and I'm also one of the organizers of the Flutteristas, which is something I'm very proud of. And so Flutteristas are an organization of female and non-binary Flutter enthusiasts. So if you have questions about that or want to try to join or something, hit me up. I can be found on LinkedIn, on Twitter, or whatever. So.
Cool. Right, let's see. Got my mic shot. That's no good. There we go.
So we just had a new beta. We could talk about that.
We did indeed, yes. Was that new beta? Was it? So not the stable.
It was new beta like a few days ago. We had a new release like a week and a half ago. I think, I have a tool that tells me these things.
So we found I tell you what. So I was doing a live coding session after the release of 3.13 in part of the dev camp stuff we did, and I found a bug in the new slivers that have just been added, the sliver groups. So I filed. I showed everyone on the dev camp how to file a bug on the Flutter repo, and it's been fixed. I say Pinks because that's her name on that's a hand. I never remember her.
Kate Lovett.
Kate Lovett, that's it. Sorry. Yeah. Kate fixed that. She's been doing a lot of work with the sliver.
Wait a minute. Did Simon just ask a question?
Yes, he does sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Anyway. Oops, sorry.
He knows. He doesn't know everything, but he knows all the odd numbered things, and occasionally we stumble across an even numbered question.
and for whatever it's worth, she's no longer Pinks on Twitter. She's now K8 Lovett.
Ooh.
Okay. So, yeah, go on. So, did anything come? Has anything in the beta right now that we need to discuss?
Not really. I was looking. The release of Puro, the release of Dart went from 3.1 to 3.2, and it has the inline class, that new type extension thing, is enabled, or is an experiment, but it's not enabled, so that hasn't landed yet. And what that basically allows you to have is a thin wrapper around an instance, so that all the method calls mostly pass through it, but then you can augment it with additional methods for this object. It's a great way of having a lightweight extension on instances. So, and it does give it a different type, which is great because now you can have a string that is only useful where you want ID strings, and so that can be a separate class,
do you have,
even though it's technically a string. Do I have?
Yeah, I'm just looking for the language funnel. I can't see the feature.
It's called. It's in process, and it's called inline classes. Oh, you want me to find it for you? I bet. Okay. Well, you fill in for a second while I'm looking.
Inline class types. .api.
Yeah, that's it. Inline class.
No, that's something else. No. Inline classes. Hang on, maybe I found it.
Yeah.
Something brings up the string. Inline classes allow classes to be inline.
Yeah, essentially it's just a thin wrapper. So it basically gives you a new type that is an extension of an existing type. And yet you can add methods to it. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It solves a few problems in a nice way without a lot of extra baggage. The other thing is it's all managed at compile time, just like normal extensions are. So it has no penalty. There's no indirection penalty for calling one of the built-in methods on your base class. So it's really kind of slick.
This is describes a proposal for inline classes.
Yep.
So the notion is...
Somebody's asking what inline means.
Inline, like in Kotlin, I think it was borrowed from Kotlin.
I mean, to bring inline, to bring.
Yeah, they've actually renamed it now. It's now called a type extension because it actually fits closer to what extensions do.
Thanks, because I did see that. Anyway, let me find.
Okay, yeah, if you found type extension, that's probably the more modern description of it.
All right, that makes more sense. That's the issue. Okay, hang on. Here it is.
Yeah.
This is the official language funnel ticket.
There we go. Yes.
An extension type that wraps an existing type into a new static type. It does this without the overhead of a traditional class. Okay, interesting. Yeah, this is cool. Extension type must specify a single variable using a new primary constructor syntax. This variable is representation type being wrapped. This is pretty damn cool, actually.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. And so let me again clarify.
Yeah, so
this
now
is in the beta, but you have to enable it with a command line flag.
Right. So basically, what this is saying here, let me just be clear about it. It says it wraps it in. Basically, this case, we're declaring type foo, and it has all of the parameters, features, and everything of an int in this case,
right? Except
for it's got an additional function one function. Yep. So this is nice because rather than so this is the clear point. So let me make a distinction about this. You might be thinking, how is this different from extensions, normal extensions, right? A normal extension adds fields to the existing type. So if let's say we did this, then any integer could have the function one run on it. In this case, it has to be an instance of foo, which is itself an integer, but that is the only type that has function one on it.
Yeah,
that's the distinction between the two. All right, yeah. So
in some ways, extensions could have always been this. Yeah. So this is a more refined thing. You can actually give up everything you know about extensions.
Like a good example of this is well, there's several places where it makes much more sense than standard extensions for sure. Definitely. Yeah. I'm going to post this link in the chat for anyone that wants to explore the feature specification and everything else. And as we were saying,
it's in the beta, but you have to enable the switch.
Yeah, so you should be able to enable the flag for it. So there was actually, we talked about this before, but there's experimental Dart flags that you can enable. See if I can find the docs for it.
Oh, yeah, that'd be fun. Hey, maybe we can try this. Maybe we can try this for live coding. We could actually show it working.
Maybe.
That's really risky. I know.
No, it's not that. It's because I had some other.
Okay.
Hang on, let me just find this one.
It's whatever you want to do, Simon.
So I'll post this in there. So this is it. You do -- enable experiment, and then whatever the experiment is, right?
It's inline classes is the name of the experiment.
Yeah, and then you can also enable it in the analyzer by doing this. These are the two things you need to do. So when you run your Dart code, you need to add the flag, and when you add it to analyzer, the analyzer can obviously validate the code correctly. The list of experiments is actually in the repo. The experimental features YAML, and it talks about it in here actually about how you do it, right? But if you go further down, we'll find it in a second. Here you go.
It's right there.
This is like variants, const functions, macros, and there you go. Inline dash class. Oh,
macros! Look, macros! I see macros. I can enable it.
So if anyone wants to play around with these features, that's how you do it. I'll link the documentation page here. and I'll also link the feature page. Why not? So yeah, so this is essentially how you do it, and then well, there's a bunch of stuff, right? Like, but yeah, so there you go. It's showing it here.
Well, the other thing that's in there is the fact that there's no performance hit in doing this, because
Yeah, it's transparent.
if you know, if you want to oversimplify, it just replaces the code with what you want it to be. You know.
Many moons ago, I thought that I would be using type defs as my way of annotating that this int really is an ID number, but that gives absolutely no support in the language except that I can say ID instead of int. This, I can make an ID class that all it is an int, but can only be used where when I ask for an ID, it's got to be one of these. It's not just normal int.
Yeah, and I have exactly that right now, because like everything else, we do stuff in cents. We do pennies for dealing with money instead of dollars. And to get around that stuff. And so this would be perfect for the conversion type things I want to put in there. So this is great.
Right. Yep. Soon we will get it soon.
The fact that it's experimental in beta now. What is the normal path of that? Does it become? Is it going to stay experimental throughout until we get to? It's not, or how's that work?
This has been in development for about a year. It actually started as an experiment even before Dart 3 came out. So I suspect it's really close to being landed at this point. It's probably going to be in the next stable.
Okay, and that's what I was wondering.
But it is experiment. I think it's an experiment in this table though. So you can still use it.
Yeah, so you can enable it in the stable release, I think.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
Okay.
So I think the question here, Danielle, I think you're asking is like, when is it going to make its way to stable? I mean, the question to that is just
that's not exactly my question. My question was kind of the process. So, like, for example, since it's experimental in beta now, is it going to go into a beta where it's not an experiment before it goes into a that kind of question?
As far as I mean, they do have that period. You are correct. They do have that period because it always enters beta before going out. But I think the idea of the experimental stuff, and because because a lot of the language features have such an impact, you can't just enable them without breaking something else. Potentially, that's when the flag goes. It stays in the flag, right? Because you have to choose to enable it to test it out. So I think the idea here is that. When it's experimental, they can get feedback from developers, and developers can sort of report feedback that they broke their code or something's broken with this feature, and that way it saves. And I don't think we had a lot of that with null safety before that came out. We didn't quite. I don't think a lot. At least I didn't. A lot of people I know didn't really play around a lot with the Dart 3 patterns and type and extra class prefixes before they came out. At least we had maybe touched on it a few times, but it wasn't like we didn't try compiling big. As far as I know, people didn't compile big projects with it like we did with null safety. It was like, okay, let's try our project with null safety now.
There were some blog articles and stuff during the interim while it was still in experimental and in beta, where people were posting things about using patterns and records and actually finding that the exhaustiveness wasn't working correctly and stuff. So this was still early enough in the cycle that they needed to have that kind of feedback from the early adopters to be able to figure out what needs to be fixed before the real release.
There's some pretty chunky bugs that were found, if I remember rightly, after it was released, and that's now patched in 3.1. So go check the release notes for people that want to know what they were. But I think
and that's where I learned that the analyzer has one set of code paths for type promotion, and the compiler actually has an entirely different code base for that, and they can get out of sync. I learned that in this process.
And just in case anybody, just in case anybody doesn't know, and kind of like Danielle's question, the path really is more like a competition, is the way I think of it, because the most stable master, I believe, becomes beta. The most stable beta becomes dev. The most stable dev will eventually get landed as stable. But Yeah.
They stopped doing dev though, so that's kind of
They stopped doing dev now.
For Flutter.
for Flutter.
I wonder
Flutter
if-
dev is gone. Dart dev is still there, but
Yeah.
you can't get to it any easy way.
So it's
because
like, it's master dev, it's master dev beta stable, right?
Right, but now it's
Used
yeah,
to be,
but
right?
Flutter, it's main beta stable.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right, so it's main beta stable.
Main master, same
I-
difference.
I've
Yeah,
been
they're
up
very
here
limited.
in doing work. So
We're up to 10 questions now. I think we've
All right,
delayed
let's-
enough.
let's-
yeah,
let's-
maybe we
let's-
should start. You know what? My
let's-
brain's a bit fuzzed. I did 2 all-nighters over the weekend, and I'm still not back. So, all
let's
right.
see let's see how we do with some questions then.
Android question. That's for Simon.
No. Come, well, who wants to read it?
Someone
you
has
read
a
it, yeah.
problem with Android devices and the system's back button using Go Router, and when the user presses the system back button in the phone, the app automatically gets minimized. What's wrong with the activity, Simon?
Well, they're using Go Router push. They're using Go Router Go, not Go Router push. That's the problem. There you go. So,
In essence, Go Router Go is going to like wipe the entire stack, whereas Go Router Push operates kind of normally.
yeah, it pushes the stack, so then when you press back, it goes backwards, right? Whereas Go Router Go is like replace everything, go to this place.
Now, when Chris was doing this, mostly he wanted everybody to use Go. I remember correctly, because he and I had a conversation about that. He was thinking people should use Go all the time and not push.
It depends on what you're doing. But if you're inside your app, if you're navigating inside your app, but let's say you've got like a top level navigation or a navigation drawer or some other thing, that's always going to use Go because you're replacing your current top level stack with a new one, right? So it doesn't matter how far deep you are into your stack. If you go to your menu and go to, I don't know, home, you want to replace everything with the home screen. Or let's say you had maybe a top level news or something, right? Then that would be replacing that. It doesn't matter if you were like 5 levels deep into a news article linking to a news article, linking to a news article, right?
So, yeah, and that's kind of funny too, because I would do it the other way around, because as a user, I might want to go back to that article.
Right, but that's why you have a back button. And also that hang on, Randall. That also the point is it's also about, you need to go look at some navigation. People that are interested in this need to go look. There's a great set of articles on the developer.android.com site around navigation and expected behavior of up versus back versus top level navigation. Super detailed, super great. There's lots of experimentation. And in fact, there's a bunch of stuff in the material design docs, if you remember rightly, on this as well. It's well worth doing. So if you're trying to design an app, you need to think about this, but you can't. There's a lot of time you can't think about what your major journeys are until maybe you've made your app more feature rich, and in which case you need to re-go over your navigation stack. But to get to your point, Scott, we just said about going back to where you were. That's in the type of navigation we have a back stack per tab, right? When you expect the user to want to go back to where it was, and if they tap on, let's say we're talking about news app, let's say it's the home screen has some articles, it takes you to the news tab, and then loads it on that tab. Right, and the user has this expectation of navigation. Yeah, so you need to be careful that you just don't do an infinite push. That's the thing that happens a lot in bad apps, and that is they push. So if they go back to home screen, they're doing a push, which means when I go back from the home screen, instead of leaving the app, which is kind of the expectation of the user, they go back to the screen they were previously on. Like, how do I get out of the application, right? And you end up like user force quitting your application, which is not good probably for your app. So,
Well, there's a logout button. Maybe you can put in an exit button.
No, but that's even worse.
Yeah.
Right.
One of the things that always annoys me is when you talk to iOS developers or iOS users or whatever, and they don't get there's an up button and a back button, on Android. And so they want everything to just behave exactly the way it does on the other.
Mm-hmm.
But they probably feel like
I've
that.
never really used the up button.
You have. You just didn't know it was called that. So no. So the normally the back icon at the top of the screen is considered up. That takes you to the root of your navigation stack, whereas the back button takes you back to the previous screen.
Mm-hmm.
So you can make that. So it doesn't matter if there's no like bottom nav or side nav or some other thing on the screen. Pressing that icon at the top would always take you back to your expectation of route, back up a level, rather than back to the previous screen that you're on.
But on iOS, they've only got the one button, so
yeah. So you have to go back, right? Like which is what the back button on the Android device does, or you swipe from the left, right?
Yes.
Whereas the actual button screen takes you out of the current stack, back up a level.
I made the mistake of doing most of my development on Android and then trying to see if the app worked on iOS, and I had not built in my own back button at the top. So I got trapped deep in my head.
That'll happen.
But again, the lesson of this, Scott, is the fact that when you put that button up there, it doesn't behave the same necessarily on Android and on iOS. Mm-hmm. So you may want to take that. You may want to. They can be the same, but you may want to make them goals. So, and Simon, does the follow up part of that mean anything?
Give me 1 second. I'm just trying to find the docs.
Randall's going to wear that thing around.
I tested and I tested Poco.
I don't know what Poco is.
And works regular. Just switch to the previous page, but with Samsung Xiaomi app is minimized.
¿Es español o no?
I don't know what Poco is.
Tested on it a little bit, or
I guess it's a device, right? So you're talking about 3 different devices: Poco, Samsung, Xiaomi, right? And they're saying they're testing one device and it works regular, and they just switched to the previous page with Xiaomi and something minimum. I don't know. You have to,
another phone brand.
Another question. Let's move on. Yeah.
Yep. Sure.
Not enough.
Oh, it's another phone brand apparently.
Yeah. Yep. That's what I just said.
Okay. So.
Sorry, before we jump off this topic, I do want to just also briefly mention this. I can't remember if this is Android 30. I was about to say. So this is a new feature of Android's coming out, predictive back gesture. It's a terrible name for a feature that we always wanted. So let me just briefly explain what this is and what it is not, and why it affects Flutter development. Okay, so this is it pictured on the right. And so we already have gesture navigation. So we swipe from the left, but I've always hated it because the swipe from the left it brings out an arrow and then it does the back navigation, which is fine. What you actually want is when you swipe, it actually moves the screen, right? And that's what this does, right? So the idea here is predictive is like the stupidest name in the world, right? But the notion is that it actually shows you the screen behind. So you can see here, for large screen foldables, part of a multi-year release, blah, blah, blah. Back gestures can be display an animated preview of the home screen behind your app as presented in mock-up. This also is inside your app as well. Supporting predictive back gesture requires your app update user backwards compatible, blah, 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 blah. Provides a migration path for the back key, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, so the point here is, if you implement custom back behavior, there's different migration paths that you need to take. Anyway, there's a bunch of stuff in here about it. Anyway, but this is no good to us because the back stuff is really handled by Flutter. Mm-hmm. So I think part of the next, I don't think it landed in this release, but I think in the next Flutter release we'll be seeing these changes because it requires the. I'm going to see if I can find the issue ticket. It requires a change to the way that we handle. So you know that we have right now. Oh, I can't find this because it's going to bug the hell out of me. Oh, I know where it is. Breaking changes. I just see if I can bring this up. I think it's not yet released to stable. This is it. Yeah, I'm going to pop this into chat because I'm bringing up the screen as well. Let's see if I can do this. Okay, Android predictive back. So this is coming up. This is a coming feature, and it will break everything. So just letting you know that if you use like forms, can pop, or will pop scope, you probably use will pop scope. That's the one that people use, right? Or basically anything to do with like navigation with back, you're probably going to have to make some changes. It support Android 14.
And
Oh,
Randall, there is a perfect topic for you to put together new talks that no one has done yet.
right.
Yes,
So
obviously.
I'm going to pop
Once
this in
I
chat.
understand it.
It's worth everyone. It's worth everyone like, at least reading this document to understand the problem and the reason why it's something that needs to be fixed and how we go around fixing it in terms of a break and change. But it's interesting that this is Android 14, the other one says Android 13, but whatever. So for example, will pop. So now we have pop scope instead of will pop scope, because basically the idea is ahead of time we need to tell the framework, the Flutter framework, that it can pop the screen so it can do the animation. If it doesn't know ahead of time, so before what would happen is they do the back button, then it asks, can I go back? And if you can't, it prevents it. This is ahead of time knowing you can go back or not on the current screen that you're on. And at any point, you can just rebuild your screen and say, oh, you can't pop this screen at the moment, right? So for example, things like, a good example of this is, let's say you've got a form and the person's filling out all their details. And when they press the back, you want to tell them, oh, sorry, you can't, are you sure you want to go back because you might, lose all your information? You with me? That's something that you would just say can pop false, so they can't go in the back action, but then you still need to present a different action, right? So it does kind of, what's the word? It does present like a different way of treating this. So we need to think about it a little bit more. But anyway, pop scope can pop on form, pop disposition, and registering a pop interface. This is so you can declare if you can be popped or not. Anyway, there's a whole migration path they're going through. So it's all possible. But as far as I know, this this hasn't made stable yet. I don't know if it's in beta or not. But it's worth checking out when you have the time. Landed in version.
I'm looking at the site right now, Simon, and I'm not seeing the same screen you're on when I click breaking changes.
Yes, you are. Not released yet and stable.
Okay.
And there's the list. And in here, you'll find, where is it? Just-in-time navigation pops in Android Predictive back. There's some other ones in here if people are interested. So these are the ones that are yet to be released. Things like if you use describe enum, which is the old way of getting the name of an enum, that's gone away now. That's complete because we've got enum names.
Yeah, it's enum.name.
Yeah, exactly. So that completely replaces the need for this function. So it's gone. So there's a few other things here. But anyway, yeah. So that's just wanted to let people know that this is going to be an upcoming change. It looks like it's been for the next release, 3.14, possibly. This is pre, so this is there's no guarantees, right? But 3.14, hopefully. All right. Anyway, I shut up. But just that's my what's it called? Those like public announcements or whatever. Like it's my
yes,
it's my
yes. Your PSA.
PSA. That's it. Public service announcement. That's it. Yeah. All right. What's next?
Scott.
What's next? When can someone be considered a senior? In the U.S., that's 55. What would be a good definition for a senior?
How many pairs do you have?
Johnny, when I was coding, we didn't have zeros and ones. We only had ones. It was much harder.
Oh, dear.
I think you're probably a senior when everyone runs to you to fix their blockers. And, if you're one of those people with a photographic memory and a good grasp of coding principles, you could get there in a year. But that's a photographic memory. On the other hand, it's just, I don't know. I don't think it's an amount of time because some people are working on code longer than others every day.
Let me give you my
measurement for it.
So let me give you a quick viewpoint on that whole thing about how many years, because I think that's the problem here. There's never how many years because it depends on how busy. Like if you've literally worked on the same piece of code for an entire year, how can you ever be a senior? Because you haven't got a wide gamut of experience, right?
Yeah.
So that's the thing you got to think about. It's how experienced you are, not how many years. How many years does not equate experience, right? So
and just working on something doesn't mean that you've got the experience on it and have mastered it if you still have to keep running to somebody else to fix your blockers. It's when you're fixing other people's blockers that you're good with it.
I'll give you a practical test that anybody can do. Go on the Flutter Discord general channel, answer as many questions as you can in 4 hours. And if you only get corrected 10% of the time, you're senior.
Never be afraid to stick your foot in it and get told you're wrong.
Exactly.
Watch
But
me every
that's,
week.
I do this constantly. I am constantly answering questions in all these interactive places, and I occasionally get it wrong. I totally admit that, and I think I would consider myself was my expert bad. So I still would
And when
consider
you throw
myself.
out an answer like that, silence typically means approval. Because if they disapprove, believe me, they'll let you know.
Oh yeah.
I mean, part of the problem is the fact that people that create resumes don't know this stuff, and so that's where they try to put in a number of years of experience, and that's never a really good thing. And some of that is, people like Randall and myself and even Simon, we've done a lot of stuff before this, so we can be really senior. We come in on when Flutter first comes out, we come into Flutter, we still have a lot of senior knowledge. We have a lot of stuff we can do. So on one hand, we really are senior, but compared to maybe like Flutter or Dart or something, we're not yet. But trust me, if we need to, we will be at that point because we have the tools to do that with. So it's not that simple of a question just because of the meanings of it can be different. So
I love.
You can tell when a software person is writing the job description because they'll be like, need you to know Flutter and Firebase auth and common things that people use in every app. Then you run into the ones where they're written by people who don't know what they're talking about, which is need 5 years experience with Vertex AI and 12 years experience with Flutter.
Mhm.
I literally saw one that said 5 years experience with Flutter.
Yeah.
3 years after Flutter's first commit in August of 2017.
Mhm.
And I wrote an email to him and said, you are turning yourself into a laughing stock because everybody who knows anything about Flutter knows that 5 years doesn't exist yet.
I actually posted reposted a video someone did today on junior getting a junior developer position on my Twitter account because what the guy was saying was quite interesting. It's that job postings, there's no job postings for juniors, and the reason why is a lot of companies aren't going to advertise junior roles, right? It's kind of interesting. They might advertise them on their careers page, right? They might have it, but they won't go out to like pay LinkedIn for a junior role. They're more likely to ask their staff, do you know anyone, right, that can fit this role? So that's about getting yourself out there as well as half of it, but also just going looking at your local companies because it could be that you've got companies that maybe like, I don't know, an insurance company or something that's local to you that needs a developer to work on their stuff, right? That's a perfect junior developer. You're going to get experience in an industry, right? And then you go for the next job and the next job, and before you know it, you've got this gamut of experience, and then you can start calling yourself a senior, right? Like that's the thing, right? So it's kind of interesting. I was just trying to find this. I can't find the graph, but there's an interesting graph of like a bell curve, right? Of like this kind of at beginner, you don't know anything, and you don't know if that kind of makes sense. Like you don't have the information to make
unknowns.
an informed decision. Then you become like, you learn all these patterns and everything else. You kind of learn all these principles. You start applying them and you get your code really, you have to think all up front. You get all your code really complicated. You kind of at this really top curve of complexity. And then when you start going to the sort of advanced end, you start like re-simplifying. Going, that's never gonna be used. That's never gonna be. You start re-simplifying everything and approaching everything with the experience that you've now gained from those two areas. And it's like you can't be that person at the end without going through those two fields, I don't think. And yeah, if you consider yourself a senior, then you're probably thinking to yourself, I know all these patterns and I can put this code together. If that kind of makes sense, I don't know.
Well, I got a few quick points on the senior thing. can you look at someone else's code, cut it down, and make it more elegant? That's a big sign. Regarding getting jobs as juniors, which we see all the time, seriously, wander around your local computer store wearing a Flutter shirt. You would be surprised how many people stop you and talk to you. I've also had it happen in airports. I wear my Flutter shirt when I'm traveling. On top of that, go to meetup groups, talk to people. And as far as meetup groups go, if you have a Google developer group in your area, you've got to get involved in that. There are tons of Flutter devs running around in that program. And, the job that I'm working with right now, we needed a junior Flutter dev to help us out. I pulled one out of a GDG in another region. We needed somebody to do database. I turned around and grabbed a database expert I knew from the GDG program. We needed a manager. Oh yeah, I knew somebody who worked in SaaS and project management who was part of the GDG program. As Simon is saying, there are all these jobs out there, but the vast majority of them are getting filled by the simple question, hey, do you know somebody who's any good, who's got 2 brain cells and that we can trust? So that's why you're not seeing them advertised.
I wanted to show. This is it. I found it. I was after searching. I found it. Here you go. It's literally that always. Like you go through this kind of process of learning simple code, working out design patterns, everything else. You work all these like complex interfaces, and suddenly it's like, no, it's simpler is better, and just like. But I think like you need to know when to apply a design pattern. You still use those design patterns later on in the super simple code, but it's about when to apply them and when not to apply them instead of making code super complicated with lots of classes and interactions, right?
What over file name hierarchies is like pointless to anybody who's past that. It's like, what? Just put them where you're going to find them. That's the important
part. I want to throw something out real quick. Go ahead.
I was going to say, the one thing I would say is invariably, if I think I'm being really cute, when I go back and look at that code later, I was being stupid.
Yeah.
I'm also right now, in response to the course I did on Saturday, I'm building my next thing for my Dart and Flutter channel, YouTube channel, is on Flutter mastery with the subtext of getting hired. So watch for that, subscribe to my channel, and it should be out probably within the next day or two. So I will outreach that in chat.
I just want to answer a real quick question real quick. Bettina is asking how to join the Discord, and basically how to join the Discord, how to join the Slack, how to join the Google group, the Gitter, how to find all the help is right there.
Yeah.
So Randall's got the good chair.
I'm not sure. Do you know what? I'm not sure what's happened at the moment with the Reddit because of all the Reddit stuff that went down. I think it's still disabled. I'm not sure.
No, it's still good. I still think they're blacking out on Tuesdays, but they're not blacking out the rest of the week.
I literally don't get any notifications from Reddit anymore. So
no, I don't either.
Weird.
It might be the
I get
clients
email
that use
notifications on everything except Flutter Dev.
Yeah,
it's funny.
All right.
All my gaming stuff still works.
All right, let's carry on here.
Subscribe.
All righty. Moving on.
Yeah, what's the next one?
Where do you get the 3D renders of Dash? Man, I've had mine for like 3 years now. I can't even remember.
I posted the link.
Okay, cool.
I posted the link.
Where did you post the link?
Actually, in the as a comment, I replied to him there. Just
Dashatar. Oh, you mean the Dashatars?
Yeah, the 3D render.
So okay. I mean, okay, sure. Yeah, the pre-rendered 3D stuff that we've got on this. That's where it is. Dashatars.
I think that's just let me know if it's not.
I was going to say the actual if you want 3D models and things like that, they don't. The Flutter team don't give them out. But John Weiss, who joins us on the channel sometimes, he did a 3D model, and I think that's on. I think he did the 3D model.
Didn't he also do the quasi origami one?
No, that was John Weiss. John Cummings, the other John.
Okay, that's true. Sorry,
I'm trying to
John.
find it. Yeah, too many Johns. Yeah, I can't even find it now. There is actually, if you go search like Thingiverse or what's it called, 3D Squid or whatever it's called, or some of these other 3D model sites, you'll find this Flutter models that people have made. So, if you want to render something yourself, you can.
Here's a really interesting question that I think we all face when we're working, we all face every day. How do you balance best practices versus, I guess, what I think of as brute force hacks?
I think this goes along with that previous question there, where as you get better, you're not really doing hacky things. You know how to do it right when you're doing it.
True.
So some of that is experience as you go along. And
But
so
if you don't have that,
yeah.
If you don't have, so here's the thing, right? I always say this. I feel like I'm saying it again, but please don't treat me like a broken record. And probably you've heard this before, Mitha, because I know you're a regular. But it's refactoring, right?
Fast. What's that?
I said, I'm saying, don't worry. Anyway, I'm saying that. Oh, damn it. Now you've spoiled my chi. Right.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to step in
refactoring. I always say refactor.
While he's thinking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to refactor.
Yeah, don't be afraid to refactor. I always say refactor. If I know how I want to approach something, then I can just write it because I've got the experience of writing previous code. That's what Danielle was saying. However, if it's something new and I'm like, oh, how am I trying to do this? I'm going to hack something together. I'm just going to slap it together. Does that principle work? Is that possibly what I do? No. I'm going to change this a little bit. That's not going to be performant. I'll change that. And before I know it, okay, that's what I want to settle on. And then I can go ahead and neaten it up or rewrite it and refactor it completely into the final form, right? The final ultimate form. And with all the comments and all the tests and all the good stuff, right? So you can approach this two different ways, right? Like you can approach it directly if you've got the experience. But if you don't have the experience, you're always going to be going to the hacky route because you need to see it working a lot of the time. Or at least I need to see it working a lot of the time to actually understand what might be happening there, and is this like the appropriate interaction between objects?
Right.
Two quick things. We were talking about making someone else's code more elegant. So right there, Simon, I think you're the one who also said never stop iterating, never stop refactoring. And the thing is, here's a fun one. Never be afraid to refactor, especially if there's a comment in the code that says don't touch this, because nobody knows how it works, but it works.
I don't know what you just reminded me. I think it was an XKCD post. It's like days. There's a little comment above a function. It's like days since last time developer, I don't know, banged his head against the desk trying to refactor this function, and it's like 0. It's like
if you have tried to refactor this and failed, please increment the counter.
Yeah, or something like that. Yeah.
But actually, one other point on this. I guess you're always going to brute force to some extent on your first go round, and then you're going to go back and try to clean it up. However, I try to make a habit personally of not only doing proper doc comments, but I try to at least put a 1-sentence comment above every method, just saying what the method is doing, especially if it's a big one, because let's face it, you might get hit by a bus. And I don't care how much people want to try to argue that clean code should explain itself. BS, because those words don't necessarily mean the same things to everyone. So the words that you're using might be clear to you. That doesn't mean that they're going to be clear to me. So give a quick little explanation of what things are doing. I mean, you don't have to write a paragraph. A sentence will do.
I will add to that, though, that it's more important. You can always understand what something is doing by looking at it and reverse engineering it. Add the why. Why is this code here? Why is this even a thing? If it's not blatantly obvious, and maybe it's obvious to you and not obvious to the person who's reading your code 3 months from now, but why? If you're going to spend just one comment, add why.
And an interesting one here, Simon, what do you think of this? If there is a why, then a senior can come along, take one look at this. The why tells them what the purpose is that it's trying to fulfill. And the senior says, wait a minute, wait for it. That's not how you do that.
Right.
How many
Or-
times does
or-
that come out of your mouth, Simon?
It's not necessarily that, but it might also be, did you consider this, this, and this? Because a lot of the times, a lot of code or the first go of a developer is on the happy path, right? Is on the, this is how it works. But what about when this fails or the network's bad or that happens? And you have to think about all the possible ways it can go wrong and account for those, right? In some fashion, at least. Whether it's just to display, a problem to, an error to the user, or to actually handle it gracefully.
But again, I'm sorry. I thought you were done, Simon.
No, okay.
No. I was going to say again, though, doing stuff brute force and things like that does not mean that you're not following best practices with stuff. Make sure that you're doing things right. Get in the habit of I don't know, making your variables final when they can be, or whatever it is. But get in best practices and try to do that. Add the Dart doc where it makes sense.
Whatever happened to extra pedantic? That did me so much good.
It's still there, but it's labeled under the lints and Flutter lints packages. It's the pedantic stuff went away because it was incorporated into async.
Gotcha.
So unawaited, for example, is now part of the async package.
Well, and by the way, I was going to say, by the way, we just had with the latest release, the new lints. I've got a whole new slew of things coming in with async gaps. With using a context after an async gap.
Some of those are actually wrong. I found some in the project after upgrading, and the async gap was not actually true. It misinterpreted because of the Dart 313. The async gap lint is still experimental. Let me just say that now. It's still marked as experimental. It's not final. It is buggy.
That might explain why I'm running into it at work and I have not been able to stomp it out.
Yeah. So just to say that I don't think it supports 313 very well right now. So give it some time. They'll probably fix that in 314. It reminds me, I was supposed to raise that as an issue. It was to do with, for myself, sorry, just be clear for other people, the issue I had was with the new switch statements. If you're using a Dart 313 switch and it was calling something inside, it considered it being async when it wasn't. So it would think it was an async gap.
Well, in my case, I think it probably is because it's dealing with, or it could be because it's dealing with exception handling. So it's like when I catch an exception, So that really could be across an async gap, I think. I haven't chased it down to make sure, but it feels like it could be.
A little bit of quick clarification. For those who don't know what extra pedantic was, it was a package that you put into PubSpec YAML, and you changed over your lint to go to it instead of the regular Flutter lints. And it was just downright mean. And unfortunately, some of the rules were circular. Okay, it was impossible to get your code perfect because if you obeyed one rule, it complained you were breaking another. But this thing did not let you get away with anything. So your code always had to be good because if you didn't, it would be full of nothing but squiggly lines everywhere.
That's why I've been using very good analysis on everything. That one's reasonably good, and it's still pretty aggressive. So very
Is
good.
It very good or reasonably good?
No, it's from very good ventures. So very good.
Randall got caught by that one.
No, why are you distracting with that? That's fine. But hey, it's top of the hour, and we still have 8 questions. I think we should start cutting off.
Let's get on.
Okay, 5 minutes, and then the hammer comes down. 5
minutes, 5 questions. All right, let's go. Could you please show us how to find issues with a good psychiatrist?
Hold on, we don't have to. Hang on. We say 5 minutes for more questions,
and then
before we close up questions.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're at the other end of the cycle already. No.
Right.
It would be nice, but no.
And real quick, I just want to say hi to Jessica. It's always nice to see other Flutteristas in the chat.
Yes. Cool. Jessica, it was nice to see you in person at IO Connect. Look forward to seeing you again in person soon. Alrighty.
Can you please show us how to find issues like you did in DevCamp? I guess that's to me.
It's got to be to you.
You
I mean, find issues, as in,
break something. Something breaks. You
yeah.
go,
I mean,
oh, something
I
broken.
mean, I guess like I knew what the behavior was like before I added the widget, and then when I added the new widget, I was like, that's not the behavior I expected. And it says it clips it, but it doesn't. Therefore, I know it's not performing the job it should do. So I can raise an issue ticket. I mean, the thing is, like, if you ever wonder what you're seeing is a bug in like the framework or the language or something, the only way to do that is to really ask others if you don't feel that you know the exact answer. So that's when you kind of go out to these forums, as Randall was saying earlier, going out to the Discord, going out to the Slacks, asking people for that feedback. And when you're not getting, when you're getting those replies, or you get those question marks of experts coming back going, hang on a second, this doesn't make any sense. It shouldn't be doing that. You found a bug, right? There's been a few times when like that's happened with a group of us, and like it shouldn't be doing that. There's no way it can do that. And everyone's scratching their heads, and then you're like, okay, that's definitely a bug, and then we raise the issue. But equally enough, you can raise the issue and then let it get marked. I mean, obviously, it's about doing due diligence on your own, but because the Flutter team doesn't have infinite amount of time to answer all these issues. But if you feel like you've done enough due diligence, then file the issue ticket, and then then the Flutter team can come back with this is a expected behavior. This is how it's supposed to work, right? Or there's a non-issue, not fixing. There's various like answers to these things. Or congratulations, you found a bug. We're going to fix that in the next release. Another neat thing that I do personally, if I find a bug, for example, let's say I found a bug in Spacer widget, right? And if I found a bug in the space, this is what I'm using you as an example here. If I found a bug in the Spacer widget, then I'd go to the source code, look at the git blame, and it'd go, oh, Scott Stoll wrote this, right?
Actually,
So
Hixie took it over. His fault.
Sure. But my point here is that say that, right? And then you go, okay, make my issue ticket, and tag him in it and go, what do you think? Is this a bug in this thing? Because they're the people with the exact knowledge of that bit of the framework. And if they come back and go, yes, this is a bug, boom, it's going to be triaged and filed in the right place, right? So it can be a lot harder for that process to take place, or a lot slower, at least, if you don't do that up front. So again, do the legwork. There is the video where I found the bug, experienced the bug, and filed a ticket. I'll pop that up in this channel soon. I've actually got a video of it, so I'll pop that up in the channel if people want to know a bit more about that.
We've got a really good Simon question coming up, and that doesn't mean that it is bizarre. Those are usually good for you too. But I'm trying to learn native Android after having learned Flutter. What's a good starting point? And that's funny because most people go the other way around.
Debate have
rub two sticks together and I don't know, pray to the gods.
Go talk to Stacy DeVino. I don't know.
So there's so many great reasons. Flutter's Android's been around a lot longer, right? The increasingly though, I will just first of all, your first go-to is developer.android.com. That is like the homepage for development of Android. You'll find guides, resources, information. But just like any platform, it can be overwhelming and there's a lot to learn. And even worse with Android is that you're going to be learning principles and techniques, that are based on historical reasons, right? Like the reason why the platform was made, and they won't make sense now in the context of now, right? So, and because of that, there may be some head scratching moments, basically, right? But equally speaking about that, it's worth learning, right? Like it's at least gaining some fundamental knowledge of how each platform works that you're going to deploy a Flutter app on. Doesn't matter if it's something that you just want to do Android develop or not. Learning a bit about it would only benefit. And as again, the design rules around building mobile apps doesn't matter if you're what language you're building it in. That's useful information. The principles and techniques of navigation is something that doesn't matter if you're doing Android or Flutter or what. That's going to be something you want to apply across the board. So a lot of that information is already out there on other platforms and things. So that's the thing. And the last point I'd make is it's nothing I can really say to answer this one, but we have the same problem in the Flutter world. That is code that is now examples that are out of date, right? Yes. The language moved forward, features were deprecated, whole classes have been removed from Android now, or completely deprecated functions. And you might find an example, that's going to do what I want to do, and then it says broken, right? Mm-hmm. And it just tells you there's errors. And you're like, that function doesn't even exist anymore. Like, well, you don't say anymore because you didn't know it's gone now and it was there before. You just like, it said it doesn't exist, right? So, at which point you're going to come across that probably a lot more in the Android world because of its length of time that it's been around. So, I'd say keep to current resources, right?
Medium articles probably are good. As long as you look at the date.
Like I said, as long as they're not behind a paywall.
Yeah. Oh.
If
right. You run into any paywalled articles on Flutter community, please let myself or Simon or John Weiss or Nash know all about it, or Randall and Danielle. Sorry. There is no reason that you should hit a paywall when you click on any article on Flutter community. It should not happen.
Apparently, we found that I guess some authors. I mean, we try and make sure that when we bring articles on that they're not paywalled, but if they can be paywalled after they've been approved on the publication, and they can also be apparently automatically paywalled by Medium as well. So there's some other weird funkiness going on. So yeah. Anyway,
and just to kind of reiterate something Simon was saying in a slightly different way. You notice over the years, Windows has a lot of really weird behaviors, and it's for backward compatibility with things that are like 20 years old sometimes. Android suffers from the same condition that anything that's over 10 years old suffers from, and that is there's a lot of stuff that was put in there to handle problems that were legitimate at the time, and they may not have been removed. And comments can be wrong, and code examples can be completely wrong. You know, you might find something in there about content providers, which is kind of useless. And my point basically is, if it looks stupid, no, it's not. It's an indication that they don't have enough help. So
I'd say something else I remember. Windows released a version that had specialist support for certain apps. Well, they do this all the time, but at the time it wasn't like this was before XP, so this wasn't part of the operating system. But it wasn't like compatibility mode and all these kind of things wasn't a thing. But they would literally have patches in the operating system to support certain apps. So things like Adobe Suite. They release the next version of Windows, it stops working. They realize, oh, it's because Adobe's calling an API incorrectly, but the original version of Windows, the previous version, allowed that problem to exist. So then they actually have to patch the operating system API with extra behavior that says, oh, if I'm running with a process of adobe.exe or whatever, then do this other behavior. And that's so that they can release the next version of Windows without having to wait for the release cycle of Adobe, potentially, right? And this happens all the time in software, but it's kind of tragic as well because no one wants
it's tragic and it's hilarious. Someone else once said to me that people do crappy things in Windows that work that are bad examples and bad ways of doing things. Then Windows updates, they break, and everybody blames Windows.
Yeah.
So then you have to turn around in Windows and make allowances so that people can write crappy code, and the cycle just builds on itself.
I'll give you another interesting fact. Do you know why there's no Windows 9? It went from Windows 8 to 10, and there's no Windows 9. No one's actually asked about that.
They killed Longhorn for steak? I don't know.
No. It's literally because lots of applications would look for add the Windows version response you get back from Windows and say, does it start with Windows space 9? Then it must be Windows 95 or Windows 98.
Oh.
So they looked at the very beginning and just checked that beginning, which means if they release Windows 9 and name it that, lots of software would think they were running on 95 or 98 and not Windows 9. There you go. So they literally just skipped the version. Windows 8, 8.1, 10. No 9.
I don't mean to bail on you all, but I need to bail on you all.
No worries.
So you all have a great one.
Say again, Daniel.
I'll be in a few minutes too. So, but I'll hang out.
All right, let's get a few last few questions. All right.
Yeah, we got 5 more questions. Let's get through
Stockholm.
those.
Flutter and friends, be there.
Be there, be square.
Yep.
See you later.
Yep. Ciao. All right, so let me pull up the next one here. I guess I'm now virtual Scott.
Sorry, I pressed the button. Yeah.
Okay, how many programming languages, tools, etc. seem to copy each other? Wouldn't it be better to combine resources, Dart and Flutter and Kotlin and KMM and Golang? No, you don't need a kitchen sink language. I've done that for 30 years. It's called Perl. You don't need a language.
It's interesting. It says like copy themselves. I think they don't. The languages don't copy. The languages don't copy themselves. And it's not languages only, right? So tooling, it's complicated, isn't it? Because like you design software for the use case that it needs, right, to fulfill.
Right.
And you can have languages that work on lots of different platforms and everything else, right? But it doesn't mean they perform well in those situations, right? Like it's very difficult to find a language that is good on everything, right? And in fact, I don't think there is one, first of all, right?
Not possible.
However, I have to say that Dart has come the closest for me, but it still doesn't really support web because web is JavaScript only. It's just the nature of it. So there is still going to be Dart to JS. And I think you'll find that there's pretty much like you can go, I'm going to compile C++ code for web, and it compiles to JavaScript or WASM or whatever. And it's great, but it's still not one language fits them all. And I think that's more to do with it. It's not even just language. It's the same with tooling. Like there's practical uses for choosing to develop something one way. And the problem is then you start, we just said this, that you start getting legacy, you start getting other things in his code base. It's like you can't even combine frameworks. It's complicated is the answer, really.
Very well. Go ahead, sorry.
I was going to say, and for the record, Imtho did say languages, tools, etc. So he's covering all that. But I wanted to say that one of the, to go on with what Simon was saying there about it not being possible is you're serving different masters. So like, for example, one of the problems I'm running into with that I would like to be able to do is I would love to be able to take in, like an inline function and serialize it, but we don't have reflection like that in Dart. And so it's really easy to say, well, Kotlin can do it. Why can't I do it? Things like that. And there's reasons for it that if you go look at, different, discussions about it, you'll see there's reasons for it. And so it's all about serving different masters that way. You have to make choices at some point of this is what's important to me in the programs I'm running, and you make your choices depending on that, because otherwise you do end up with something like Perl or PHP or something like that it is, and there's times where those are the right tools too, of course. But for what we're doing here, I agree that Dart and Dart is a great language. I love it. I love where it's at. And are there things every now and then I would like to do that I could do in other languages? Sure, but there are reasons, and so far I also kind of trust them. And they also are working hard at making sure that the problem with the language is once you give, you can't take away. And so they talk about that a lot. So once you've added something, you can't really take it back. And so part of the pain I think we feel at times with things like macros or things like that coming up is the fact that they want to make sure they're doing it right. And they're putting a lot of thought into making sure that they're doing it in a way that is sustainable going forward. And we don't have these Windows type problems we were talking about.
So Larry Wall used to have this talk, probably still does have this talk if he's talking in public places much anymore. called the waterbed theory of complexity. If you take a waterbed, some of you may have actually seen an actual waterbed. I used to sleep on one. You push down on one side of it, the other side pops up. And in terms of complexity, in designing a language, anytime you make something simpler and lower that, something else gets a little more complex. And that's because a language is a set of abstractions, and you can abstract along all sorts of different axes, but you can't do them all at once. There's just, you end up with Lisp, and that's not even quite that abstract in every possible direction. So what happens is that languages become tailored toward solving a particular class of problems. And to the degree that it successfully attacks that class and maybe some of the neighboring classes, does suggest then the success of the language. And I think Dart has done a really good job of having a fairly boring mix of object programming, generics, asynchronous, enough of the core things that end up in the kind of programming we're doing for mobile and web and desktop, that it is making a lot of sense to cover that area.
I think the first joke email I ever got back in the 80s was someone saying they had hacked into the Pentagon and had gotten the Star Wars source code. And to prove it, they did they did a tail minus 100 on it. And they said it was written in Lisp, but it was all just closed parens.
Yep, exactly. Okay, on to the next question, I guess. All right, let's see here. What is the best approach for getting data from a flattened data structure in real-time Firebase with Flutter? Simon.
I was
What's the best approach for? Wait, I mean, what is the best approach to getting data from a flattened data structure in real-time Firebase with Flutter? Flattened data structure. I mean, I'm not even just fetch it. I think the problem you've got is that in the real-time database, it will try and get a whole tree of what's underneath that point. If you only want to get the one level, there's an extra parameter for the request that you give it. I'll be honest with you, I've not used the real-time Firebase database for like 4 years. So 3 years, 4 years, something like that. So you could go look it up, but there's definitely a parameter for that, remember.
I've only used the real-time database back when it was called Firebase, back when it was a separate company.
Yeah, exactly, right. I remember.
That's the legacy product. Don't start new stuff with the RTDB. Go use Firestore.
To be honest, they should already have deprecated that thing a long time. I think maybe it has some specific use case. That's why they haven't. Maybe they got some customers on it, but
there's a slightly different pricing model.
I was going to say pricing is what I thought.
Shallow. There you go. Literally, it's called Shallow. True. It's in the docs. It's in the docs.
All right.
It's time now. I've got to turn into a pumpkin. Right. Thank you, everybody.
All right.
And
see you next week, probably. Yeah. Awesome. All right.
So there you go. So just want to quickly cover this on the screen. Yeah, Shallow. So if you've got, you can see here, if you've got user name Chris, for example, user body, if you only want to get those, if you do shallow true, you're only going to get user true body, just to show that those keys exist, right? But if you then say, I want the body true shallow, then you're going to get the content for it. So anyway, shallow is the advanced features that you get everything without having to download the entire subtree. Essentially, that's the whole idea. So
I think it's considered an advanced feature to not be recursive. That's advanced. Right. That's nice. Right. It's like RM only deletes a file. RM-R is more advanced because it deletes a tree, but for real-time Firebase, it's backwards. That's the advanced version of it, is adding shallow. All right, that's enough of that. Let's move on, I guess. Okay, let's go with how do we design our apps to have advanced security features built in without over-engineering them? It's not possible. Or using external packages like FreeRASP, is it even possible considering modern threats? Boy, that's a can of worms.
Yes.
How? Got to answer the how part first.
The problem. Sorry, bear with me. Just trying to get set up for the coding.
Yeah.
So you can design your apps for advanced security in mind, but then you're writing extra code to be secure. The whole idea of any package that you get off of Pub is that they've done that work for you, so you have to do it yourself. For example, let's talk about I'm trying to think of something you might want to do. Let's say Firestore. Let's just say Firestore, right? Now Firestore has an API. If you wanted to, you could code your own stuff to go straight to their API and use that. But why? When there's a whole library that makes a really nice standard interface that you can have documentation for, that simple to work with and does lots of other layers of abstraction like caching and other, offline support and all this kind of stuff, right? So it's like you now can take it to the security aspect of it. It's like, well, I can either go get all these libraries that help me be more secure, or I can go write all this stuff myself to be more secure. Now, that's what you're asking right now, right? So you can always design your apps to be more secure by just thinking about the aspects of security. There was actually a great, I say great, I'm assuming it's great. I haven't listened to it yet. What's the Flutter podcast? Hang on.
There's a bunch of them.
It just came out today, though. It's
Flutter something Flutter. Flying High with Flutter?
Flying High with Flutter. That's the one, yeah. I think it's that one.
That's one of the ones that comes out twice a week or so. It's all widgets.
I think it was Flying High with. Let me just check. Hang on. Bear with.
Sadly, I've stopped listening to most of the podcasts again. I'm running out of time, and all that's my spare time.
I think it was Flying High with Flutter that I saw this.
Yeah, I used to code listening to podcasts. I don't do that anymore.
Why?
Flying High with Flutter. Some train of thought says.
How to hack your apps and protect them. So there you go. I mean, this is the kind of thing. I haven't listened to this yet. I'm going to put it in the chat. Free advertising for them. I don't mind. There you go. Chat.
It's a good show. They interviewed me. It's got to be a good show.
Yeah. Since I've not listened to it, I don't know the quality, but that's essentially what you need to learn. You need to go, if I want to attack my own product, how am I going to do that? Try it, see what you can get out of it, and go, oh, well, I shouldn't be seeing that. I don't want to show that to people. How can I protect against people seeing that, or changing those assets or whatever it is? And then that's the avenues of thing that you get down. But, it's about, like, with security, it's to the nth degree, right? Like, there's no way of being totally secure, right? Because at some point, someone can change something, like it's a system, right? So it's about how difficult you make it. And a lot of the time, making it difficult enough by using a package is plenty good enough for most applications. To be honest, most applications don't even need it, right? So, something to think about. But hope that helps. Maybe you can elaborate on a specific threat or something you kind of want to understand a bit more.
And there's also just general things you learn, like, have some safety about how you manage your passwords on device and things like that. So, but those are pretty all generic, nothing really specific about Flutter. Luckily we don't have, we're not like PHP and have SQL injection attacks from pretty much every day usage of PHP. All right. Anyway, here's the next one. As Flutter is praised for so many things, of course, in so many platforms. It's bigly. It's all bigly. Yeah. How do we avoid us falling into the silver bullet kind of problem? You mean using Flutter for everything? Well, I don't use Flutter for things that don't have a screen.
I use Dart for that, though.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'll be honest with you, that's it. I used Dart. I think I know what you're saying, but honestly, I'm also like thinking about going.
Why not?
It's not very often that you find something. You again, like, because Dart is ahead of time compile, because of the hot reload and hot restart, it's easy to develop with, because of all the pros that we all go on about. That sort of makes it good for all these other things, right? So, as much as we can talk about being difficult, right? Well, not difficult, that's the wrong one. Because it's easy, it is the go-to solution, and that's fine. If it works and does the job it needs to, I think it's fine. But again, you don't, as a developer, as much as you might want to use these things, you should definitely broaden your horizons and learn other languages and tools, right? So as a good example of this is like Dart is not a systems level language, right? Systems level language is Rust. Rust is perfect for things like writing operating systems,
Right.
drivers, or really low level things where you need to control the memory, right? Even though, anyway, it's basically very much like the new version of C++ in certain aspects, right? But that's not one silver bullet then, right? And I think you need to choose what you do for each problem, right? If you feel like Dart does it, then go with Dart or Flutter, right?
Yeah, and I also think that, as Simon was saying, you should keep your horizons broad. Keep looking at other systems, partially because if you only focus on being an expert at Dart and Flutter and not really looking at anything else, then you start looking like a fanboy to people who you're talking about with, because you'll go, but Rust has this, and then you don't know what that is. So you can't say, well, I don't need that particular kind of immutability for the kinds of things we're doing with Dart, but you have to be able to come back by knowing their position to be able to properly respond. And so, yes, to avoid looking like a fanboy, yes, you should definitely be broadening your observations. You'll still come back to using Dart and Flutter all the time, but at least when you get challenged, you go, I'm here for a reason. And that's pretty handy. Anything else on that, Simon, or is that beating it to death?
No, that's it.
All right, let's do this. Last question, a little confusing. My Alfred server. What the hell's an Alfred server? Written in Dart. Well, it's written in Dart, apparently. After some time got freeze. Also at background, it stopped. Oh, that's something on a mobile, probably. You've got a server on a mobile? That's interesting.
Sorry, my Alfred server written in Dart. I don't know what Alfred is, but okay, you got Alfred as also sometimes got freeze, but in background. But okay.
This is probably mobile. Okay,
yeah. So that's your problem. You can't. So let me be clear. Your app is at your app's lifetime of operation is at the behest of the operating system. It will just shut you down whenever it wants. There you go. Right? You cannot have stuff long-lived without agreeing to do so with the operating system. So on Android, for example, you have to have a foreground notification for a long-lived background process. You can go look that up on the developer website for Android. And then there's a great package for this called Flutter_background. So Flutter_background does all that kind of minutia for the background stuff. I think it does stuff on iOS. I can't remember. But that's exactly why. You just can't have mobile. You can't have long-running servers and things without dealing with the operating system quite heavily. So try Flutter_background. That should solve your problem.
Oh, that was the last question. And I'm actually curious what an Alfred server is. So if you want to drop that in the chat, we can take it offline. Well, so remember, you cannot paste URLs into the chat. So you have to describe where I go find about it, not tell me as a URL, because I won't be able to see it. All right, let's go to chatting stuff. And I've got a hard out in an hour. So we only get an hour with me, and then you're on your own, Tom.
Well, I don't think I'm going to stay all that long, but we'll see. We'll see how far we get.
You always say that, and then we're into the fourth hour.
All right, so
let's go.
I figured we keep talking about, like, people keep asking about building websites with Dart and Flutter. I think it might be fun to build a website in Dart without Flutter and show how you do that. Is that interesting to people?
Jasper, right?
So yeah, we can do a bit of Jasper as well. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So
yes.
Let's have a play around with this, because it's been on my mind to do some stuff. We need to come up with something to build though. So
The Flutter
Yeah.
community homepage.
We could do that. Yeah. I mean, what would we
And then you
want
can
to
publish
provide?
it. You can have it be the real thing.
Yeah. I mean, so let me share my screen here. So
Okay.
let's see if this comes across.
You could probably hide. I guess I'll stay on screen. I want to be able to point at things. I need to be able to do this.
Hang on.
Yeah, look up there.
Is it loading? Is it working?
I see something.
There we go. And we come. Yeah, it's come through. There we go.
Okay.
All right. So let's see how far we get with this and go from there. All right. Let me see. Right. So okay. Oh yeah, we could play around with the stock animation thing for sure.
Ooh, yeah.
So we'll play around with this. So we'll play around with this and see where we get to. We didn't finish the numbers animation. I just remembered. Literally, I forgot all about it until just now. So, yeah. Let's see.
We have no continuity. We go into stasis boxes for 166 hours between shows. So
yeah, we just in little hyperbolic chambers. We just go into for a whole week. Right. All right. So let's well, maybe we'll have a play around in a minute. Right. So I just want to explain this because I think a lot of people don't know about this, and I wanna impart some knowledge. So
yeah. Wonderful.
Web dev is a feature of Dart. It's been around since the very beginning of Dart.
Mm-hmm.
And it allows you to do web development with Dart. You've always been able to do this. That's before Flutter, right? So what I'm going to do is post this in the chat for people that want to follow along. And if you want to follow along, because I think this would be a fun little beginner for a lot of people, is all you need to do as a developer, do this: Dart pub global activate web dev. Okay, that's what you need to do. So once you've done that, you can then we can then get going. Okay, so all right. So first things first, I'm going to go create a new project. Now I can just create a folder and stick a pub spec in there, right? Or we can just use a template. So we're just going to get started with the template. So Flutter create -t web. And you see here, use web app uses only Dart core libraries. And what should we call it? We'll call this community site. Let's call it community site. There you go. So it creates analysis options, changelog, readme, and then 3 files: index, main, and styles. Nice and simple. Yeah. All right. Let's go into our community site. And then web dev is, once you do the pub global activate, what this does is it then, we need to make sure that we're actually, let me see if I can bring up our pub spec YAML.
Make sure it's in your path too. Yeah.
There. Yeah. So it does. So the first time you do pub global activate web dev, it should, hopefully that's big enough for everyone. So I maybe make it a bit bigger.
Yeah,
it should suggest this to you, and if you try and run this command, it will tell you that you might not have it in your path, in which case you'll have to pop it in there. But anyway, right. So we're going to make sure that let's see, I call this Flutter community website, and we're going to have 240, 4, and things. So we've got the packages we need. We need to make sure that we have the web compilers in our dev dependencies, and that's what it's suggesting in the docs. So you should see something like this. We don't have any test cases, so we don't get test, and we can run dart pub get. So that's already been run, so that's fine. So that's what is run up here, software dependencies. So we'll just clear our screen here. So it's web dev is the command, and then you'll get 2 subcommands: build and serve. Server lets us, you can see here, starts a local web server for development, and build builds the final result that we can deploy on Firebase hosting or on I don't know, GitHub pages, any hosting you like. Okay. Any reason you switch to Sublime Text? Because I haven't got the IDE ready yet. This is just to get us going, and then I'm going to load up the IDE and we're going to configure that to do web development. Okay, so we'll get there. All right, so web dev. So if we just do web dev serve, we'd get some. It worked just fine. But I just want to take you through. There's this option at the top, auto, and we can set restart or refresh. And basically, this means that when you code changes, it automatically reloads it like hot reload for you. So we want to do web dev serve -- auto refresh. And then that's going to build our test app.
Eventually.
It'll get there.
It's thinking.
It's thinking.
It's contacting ChatGPT to get the details.
Okay, so now it's telling us it's serving on my local host on port 80. So if I come on, click on that. Here it is. Your Dart app is running.
App is running. Wow. Okay, we're done. Let's ship it.
We're done. That's it. Ship it, right? So this web page, so you see your Dart app is running, is actually done from Dart. So if I open up the Dart code, this is all the Dart code that we have. So if I change this to this is Humpday, save, there you go. Instantly changes on the right hand side. No IDE. Wow. It monitors the files. It just works, right? Now, it's you look at this and go, it's a far cry from that code on the left to what you see on the right. I mean, where does the size of the text come from and all that? So that's where the other two files that it generates comes in. So we're just going to briefly talk about this. So it generates a index.html file, which is like your starting point. This is where it includes the compiled main.dart.js code here, right? And on our example, we use query selector, which is part of the Dart HTML package, to get the output. The hash is how you identify a ID in CSS. So this gets the ID of output, which is this one down here, this tag, and sets the text inside that tag to this is Humpday. Yes, this is completely instead of JavaScript. No JavaScript whatsoever. And then finally, you have your CSS. Now, you could, if you wanted to, output a canvas and use Dremel paint anything to a canvas, and you don't even have to do CSS. I wonder what things we've seen that does that. Could it possibly be Flutter Web, right? So this is the fundamentals of how Flutter Web works, right? Like it still just edits the HTML DOM. It still just paints to a canvas, right? It's just built on top of this. Now, if we don't want the entire framework of Flutter to come down to build a website, this is what you can do, right? People talking about SEO. Well, this is it. You can do it and be SEO friendly, right? So, okay, so now we've got those things. This is great.
And just as a historical note, this was sort of the original direction Dart was heading when it was first being created. It was intended as a smarter JavaScript. And when we were developing with this back in the early days, you used an Eclipse plugin to edit your code that knew about Dart syntax. And you executed it in a special version of Chrome called Dartium that actually understood native Dart code and compiled it in the browser. Luckily, that all changed. That was the old days.
Yeah. We don't say the E word, the Eclipse. Oh, it gets shivers down the spine.
Eclipse, yes, Eclipse. No. But that was open source.
Anyway.
It was open source.
Yeah. Anyway, so it does go in here about the different commands and doing a debugger release build, all yada yada yada, all this kind of fun stuff. So there's also look, you can run tests as well as web separately. There's a bunch of stuff. I'll let you guys have a play around with all of this, but the documentation is there. Okay, so if we go to there's also the web dev package itself, and as you can see, updated 6 days ago. This is current. This is 2.18. Yep. This is still like very much development, right? There is actually a debug extension that you can get in your Chrome browser, and then you can actually debug your web app in your tooling, right? That's all possible with this, right? I'll let you dig through all that later. But anyway, so there it is. I'll pop it in the chat for anyone that wants to sort of grab that, right? So following up from this, is Jasper. Jasper is a dark web framework that's built on on top of these basic things. Now, I'm not going to take full advantage today of all of the features that Jasper has. I just want to concentrate on a few, and I want us to build something that actually works, right, and does what we want. So, all right, I'm going to switch away here for a second. I'm going to load this up in IDE, so you have to dance for a second, Randall. keep them occupied.
I can keep talking about the old days. So, as I said, I came across Dart, and Dart was in this context of it being a smarter JavaScript, and so I actually wrote a 30-minute talk that I delivered in Brazil, in Porto Alegre, Brazil, for their big FISLE program, which was 5,000 attendees every year. It was incredible. It was an awesome event. I did it like 6 or 7 years in a row. But I did a talk on why Dart should be your next web development language, and I included a lot of this stuff. But just getting through the basics of what Dart is and how it was nice. And this is early Dart. Most of you probably have not seen Dart 1. If you came on Flutter or later, that was already Dart 2. Dart 1 was basically just a smarter JavaScript and had a lot of really interesting things. It was the values were typed, not the variables. That was very Ruby-like, very PHP-like, very Perl-like. So it was actually pretty convenient for me to be able to do that. And have I stalled enough yet?
Yeah.
Go on.
You can carry on if you like to. I'm sure people like the history.
Yeah.
Right.
Back in the old days when I was a senior programmer.
Before I knew anything I was talking about.
Yeah.
All right, so here it is. Here's the template. Same thing we just built. We now got this open in the IDE. We get the default lints and all that kind of fun stuff. Here's our same. Oh, you need to enable Dart. That'd be very helpful. Here's our same thing that we just saw. I thought I saved that, but I guess I didn't. What do we say? This is community website. Oops. Right. Save. No file system changes. Oh, it was there. Just didn't. Okay, fine. Update all. Let's update all our dependencies. PubGet.
Oh, this is a good question here. I can answer this while you're moving around there just for a second, which is why did Google give up on Dartium? Because they realized they would have to get a bunch of different vendors to all put this Dart thingy in, which was huge, this Dart interpreter compiler thing, and that was never going to happen. So instead, they did a 45-degree turn, and they said, let's just make really, really super kick-ass Dart to JS and have it compiled down to standard JS everywhere. And they did, and it works really, really well. We got incremental loading and all sorts of wonderful features because they were forced to no longer use Dartium. That was a good thing, but it was seen as a loss when it was originally released. Because we went, oh, Google's giving up on Dart. No, Flutter came along and Dart to JS came along. So, yes.
All right. So, and I was going to say, it's also impossible to force another company to do something. You can't do that. You have to come with agreement. And frankly, at the time, Apple has come a long way in recent years in terms of its support with the wider developer ecosystem. But still, Apple is very much Apple-centric. It's Apple, the Apple way of the highway. And when it comes down to that kind of stuff, there was no way that Apple was going to introduce Dart. And if a website can't run on Apple browser, well, then you've lost a big percentage of of your audience, right? Anyway, moving back to this, right? Okay, so we've done that, and you'll notice that the web directory contains main.dart. Well, that's interesting. This is because the entry points are always going to be in here, right? It's still a library. It still has a package. Now you can go look up you can go look up on the pub site about the common layout of packages. It explains all this. So what we want to do in here is we're going to create a lib directory, and we're going to create our should we make this should we put site.dart? Sure. Right. Let's do site.dart. And then inside our main, we want to bring it in. So this is where Jasper comes in. So we want to build this more like the way that you build a Flutter application. And if we're going to build that, then we don't want to go down the route of having to control all the DOM ourselves. We want to control widgets and they magically work. So in this situation, what we're going to do, I'm going to just grab and add Jasper manually. Jasper has a create command. It has some other stuff you can try out. But for the minute, I'm just going to chuck this in here. So our project's going to depend on Jasper. Let's do pub get. And off we go to the races. And what we should have is one of our
just cut and paste their hello world example out of there, right?
It hasn't loaded it yet, but probably a rebuild will sort that out. Right. Anyway, so that's a question: how do we run this from the IDE? So I did notice this just now. Like you could originally do Dart Web, and then you give it your HTML file in your thing, and then hit run, and it would work. But it's validating that, and this is supposed to work, but I had it just kick.
It's looking like it's working.
Well, it looks like it's working so far. I had this kick out the other day and just not do anything. So it builds and then it just finishes, rather than sitting there as a daemon and actually doing the serve experience. Yeah. So look, serving and it just dies.
Oh,
so I have no idea what's going. I have no idea, and it's only happening when I do it through the IDE. So this is something to do with the IDE plugin. Probably something that's died. So I'm not going to worry about that. But what we can do instead,
can I blame it on Windows? I'll just blame it on Windows.
Oh, it
works fine on my Mac. It works fine on my Mac.
So what we can do instead is we can just tell it that we want to run a shell script because we know the command. And this is just to integrate it better with the IDE. We could just open up a command prompt that you do in VS Code and just type the command, right? But I like having the play button, and then we can debug it and do some other things, right? This IDE is IntelliJ. It's basically what Android Studio is built upon, and it's the ultimate version, the paid for version, but the free version is just the community version is just as good. Right, so I made some notes. To kind of make this quicker so we can get on with what the show. So I went ahead and found where WebDev was on my system. This is running shell script. So on Windows, it's a batch file. So this is where it's stored on my system. The command the options I want to give to the script is serve auto refresh, is what we just tried in the command line. And then I want to run this hosted by a command instance, and I want it to run the command and quit. So these are kind of the parameters that we actually need to do on Windows. It would be different on Mac and so on and so forth. You could probably just run bash and then the shell script or whatever it is. If you do which space WebDev in your command line, it will tell you where WebDev is, right? Or where on Windows, but it's the same difference. Oh, I didn't name it. Let's name that. So we name this serve. All right. You can change the port and things, but that's no mind to us right now. All right, let's see. So that's great, but what we actually want to do is host an application. So the actual samples. Let's see if I can find them on here. The samples of. If I can find it, repository. Sorry. You'll see in here. Let's do. I don't really want to do this. Do I want?
Riverpod? That's cool.
Yeah, we're not going to go there right now. This is a backend. I don't want that. All right. Well, I'm going to come back. Oh, maybe it's in the docs. It's probably in the docs. There must be a docs site.
I think there's an example in the docs.
Yeah, I missed out on the docs page. Well, we can do it from here, but it's not what I was looking for. Documentation. There we go. That would be helpful. I read the documentation. There we go. See, smart brain.
You should decompile the binary code generated by the compiler to figure out what to do next.
So, yeah, so there's core concepts over here. The component system explains what this is, DOM components and text and how it all works. Worth reading because it helps you understand the difference between Jasper versus Flutter Web. And I've just noticed there's a page on that as well, so maybe check that out. The app and document bit is the what bit we care about. So it talks about how it works. Now, Jasper supports server-side rendering. We're not doing that here. We're just going to concentrate on the client side, just because I don't want to have extra complexity whilst we're doing this. And it shows you here a simple workspace of where you might have your lib directory with your app, and then you have web with your main, and what main contains, which is like your run app. So this is kind of what we want to do. So we're going to take this and copy that in here. So our entry point is we've got lib, what do we call it, site? Let's call it site, sure. And so basically what we're saying here is we want to run a component. So let's do I'm going to just state, I haven't got templates for these yet. So we'll just do stateless widget and I'll rename it. So we'll call this site instead of app. And then we want a stateless component. Thank you very much. And this returns a iterable of component. And we can make this so if it's an iterable, we can either return a list. So if I literally did a square brackets here, this works, right? And then inside here we can put our other components, or you can do sync star, and then you can just write your code and yield your components.
Yield.
Right? So we'll give both a go. But anyway, this is the start. And then so what we'll do right now is we'll put a bit of text in and say hello world. Of course, the obligatory hello world.
Yep.
And then so now we have a site widget. Component. I'm going to keep using those interchangeably. I can't help it. 4 years of saying widget everywhere. Right. So now we have a stateless component. In here, we can say site instead of app. Oops. Sorry. Site. There we go. And as it says here, it will attach the application that's going to run to the body tag. This means in the HTML, there's no need for this output. It's going to use the body tag directly, right, to put all the content of the website, if that makes sense. We don't need scaffold metadata, and we want to change our title to Flutter Community site. All right, we don't need site. It's Flutter Community. There you go. Okay. Now we can obviously put wherever we want in the HTML, so we can add like the favorite icon, all the various metadators, the SEO. We can have multiple HTML pages for entry points, or you can configure your server to direct all of the requested URLs to one index page. You can even write your Dart code. This is what it does with the server-side rendering. You can actually have some Dart code that outputs different HTML files, so you get different SEO-friendly things, and do server-side rendering. Server-side rendering is where instead of the JavaScript filling out what's inside body here and putting the hello world in there, it's done on the server side and sent down to the app, which is perfectly what search engines want. Right. All right, moving back. So this is fine for search engines, by the way. Search engines give the Google bot and other bots that do crawling of the internet give the page a few seconds to load, and they give it a few seconds to settle, because they know all the bots and all the all the search engines realize that a lot of processing now happens on the client side, right? So it's not just server driven. All right. So now we've done that, and we have our main that did not import the right thing. So what do we call this? Package. Why did that not? Package community site. There we go. All right. Oh, it imported it twice. All right, my bad. All right, let's go off that one. Right, so now we've done that. Let's we want to hit play. I don't think I wanted that. Yeah, hang on. I'm gonna just I'll leave it doing that actually. Hang on. Succeeded. That's actually working now. But sorry, it's running it inside a terminal, and I don't want that. It's going to run its own command instance. So we untick this box. There we go. Try that again. There we go. That's better. All right, so I'm going to bring this up to sort of above. Just reorganize the screen slightly so it's better for everyone viewing. So as you can see here, it's built it. And if I come on and click, hopefully, there we go. Hello world.
Oh, yeah. Yay. Your
So-
text component has registered.
So yeah. So if you look at the example here, it's got a DOM component, right, of header 1. So let's go back to our code. And what we can do is go back to our site. Bring that down so we get some more room. So this is going to sit there and monitor our code. And each time we save the code, it will refresh the page for us. So in this case, we can say DOM component header 1, hit save. And there it is on the left, just like that. Now, there is actually, so the Jasper package, if I look at my external dependencies here, external libraries, I should find Jasper. There it is there. And it's got a couple of interesting imports that you can do at top level here. So you've got server for server side, the top level Jasper. You've also got browser components and HTML. So these are common things that you might take. So you might have. So for example, in this case, you get the text to produce a text widget. You've got other components like a details tag, dialogue, summary, link. These are all common script tag. So there's functions that return back the components. So these are like nice ways of basically using things from the here IMG, for example, for like an image tag. So you get to use like a strictly typed way of building your DOM components and elements, forms, and then you've got content, article, aside, footer, header, H1. And this is the one we want to care about. So if we go back to the site, so instead of saying DOM tag H1, we can actually just put H1. And then inside of H1, we can put a text widget that says hello world, right? And now we just need to import those.
Capital T, right?
No, lowercase. These are functions.
Oh.
So this text function returns back a text widget. So the idea is that you can like build your DOM tree up like you would do actual HTML tags, right? So the reason why the square brackets are in there is because every DOM component can have a list of children, and, a series of children. It's not one. So that's the difference between web and Flutter's standard hierarchy. This is a much more optimal way of doing it for web. Anyway, so if I save that now, we should just get one header 1 tag, right? Save. I did hot reload. Sorry. There you go. It's building it, and there you go. All right. I have a habit of pressing the hot reload button.
Yeah.
Go on.
Do you have routing with the URLs? Can you do anchors that point to other places?
Okay. Yeah, let's do it. So
really? Oh my God.
Yeah, let's do that. So
I may actually fix my website in the next few weeks. This is
the things for me. I'm like, I want to build websites, but I don't want and if I want to do it SEO friendly, what is the options if I want to use Dart? And this is it, right?
And we should point out, because this is true, I hope, is that this is built. You can build a static site. Well,
Yes.
even without it being server side rendered,
Yes.
you can build a static site that's full of JavaScript that can be served on any cheap server. Yeah.
Free hosting, Firebase hosting, GitHub pages, custom domain. It all just works.
I'm there. I'm doing this tomorrow.
So this is exactly why I'm going with this, right? So so yeah, there's browser here. I just want to go through. There's some various browser bindings and some other things to do interrupts and a few other things. I haven't gone through all of this right now. So let's go. Yeah, there's these other ones in here, layout and various things like center. So these are very much like the Flutter widgets, if that makes sense. Spacer. So this is components, padding. So the container. You probably recognize a lot of these things. And the idea is that it kind of handles a bunch of the sort of layout for you, right? So that's at least in this layout one. So this is components. I don't know if the documentation, I haven't, do we actually get like a list of components? That would be really helpful. Nope. Writing HTML and Jasper. There you go. This kind of goes through what I was just talking about, right? Tags, and then using the simple ones and so on and so forth. If you want to try Jasper out, you can actually use Jasper Pad, which is like a web browser version of it. So you can check that out. I'll pop that in the chat. Styling. So this is like applying CSS styles in code. So you can see here what you're doing in Dart and what it produces in the web page. Yeah. Combining styles. Oh, I didn't know you could do that. So now, let's see, that's good. All right. So I'm wondering if the component system documentation lists some of them. Text, stateless component, stateful component. So these are literally like stateless widget, stateful widget, inherited component, inherited widget. Okay, so let's see now. So we've got base, that's fine. We've got layout we just looked at. Let's bring this down a little bit. So we've got site, layout, list item, list view, list item, okay, media, image, video, audio, cool, other, link, sure, and then text paragraph and text span and title and line break. Okay, cool. Okay, so let's give this a go, I guess. So at the top level, I guess we want so at the moment we have a header 1 tag. We're going to want to, I guess, let's do the navigation piece. I like the idea of some top level navigation, and then when you click on those navigation items, it navigates the page. Ah, you're back. Cool.
Yeah.
So let me take these earbuds out because it's a long time. See if you can still hear me.
Not hearing you right now. Now I'm hearing you. Okay.
I can't hear. Oh, say something.
Okay. I'll keep talking. I'll keep talking until you tell me
1
that
second.
you hear me. I'll just keep talking.
I'll
keep talking.
This is always the
Pretty
trouble.
exciting. Yeah, swapping audio devices midstream. It's always that way. Yes. I don't know if you can hear me yet. I'll just keep talking.
There we go. I can hear you now.
Yeah. Okay, good. I hear you too. Great.
That's about right. So basically what I want to achieve here is, and we're going to ignore this bit down the bottom for now because it's only going to be there if we got any errors or things we need to deal with. So what do we want to do? Yeah, so let's add a header, a footer, page content, that kind of thing. And then have a navigation bar, which lets us change the page content. Right? That seems like a standard pattern that you would want.
That's great.
Please show responsiveness. Oh, you can do responsiveness all day long. We can definitely do that. So maybe let's
one feature at a time. One feature at a time.
Yeah, I mean, like it's the same way you do responsiveness on a web page, right? There's no difference. So you normally use
media query.
But what's it type? What's it called? Yeah, there's a type of media query you can do. Oh, yeah, to be clear, sorry, for those that don't know, api.dart.dev has a whole section on the left here called web. All of these features can be used in these websites. This includes HTML, IndexedDB, JavaScript, SVG, web audio, WebGL, the lot. You can use it all. So the one you're probably going to use the most is Dart HTML. And this is basically the entire HTML DOM standard, from W3G or W3C. No, it's what WG now, isn't it? Yeah. Anyway, the standards body defines this as the standard interface. And yes, you've got that in Dart, which is great. So we're going to use this to our advantage. Okay, so we're definitely going to use some of those features. We're going to need to going to switch back and forth. So first of all, we don't need that anymore. Let's bring our website up here and documentation down. All right, so I'm trying to make best use of the space without switching too much so everyone gets to see everything. Right, we'll see how this goes. Right, so I was just explaining there, Randall, that it gives us a set of pre-made components. So we get the standard.
I was listening the whole time. I was listening the whole time.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right. So we've got page, center, spacer, padding, container, column, row, grids, and there's also list view and things. So these can be used to like lay the page out. And then we've also got the common, the ones we were looking at earlier. Was it content? I think it was content. Yeah, article, aside, footer, header, nav, things like that. H1, H2, H3. There'll be a ton of these. Section, nav. Yeah. All these are, by the way, for anyone that's watching, these are just like naming a component. That's all this is. This is just a function that names a tag to save you from, it's just like a little helper method, right? The tag names don't matter that much. Originally in HTML4, a tag name would apply a set of defaults to, so like a B means bold, a strong is bold, I is italic, right? And they basically apply a certain set of styles. Now, a lot of the time now, a lot of web pages do what's called a style reset, where they literally wipe out all the default styles, reset them back to like nothing, and then they can, that way only their CSS is applied, and you can apply CSS to any tag, and therefore any tag has any meaning now. Just to be clear about from a point of view of development what this means. But the whole idea of having the names of the tags is to be semantically correct. And that's more to do with how it might be to analyze a page, to look at its content, to for, let's say, screen readers and other things, to know, oh, this is the article body. So when you go to print mode, it keeps the article body and gets rid of the nav because you don't want to print the navigation, right? So there's that kind of optimization that can take place by semantically using the right tag. Anyway, off topic, but I want to cover that. Right. Back to where we were, back to site. So what we want is a page, I guess. Let's bring in the components. And page is going to have what inside it is the question. Do we have to specify children? Oh, we do. Okay.
Children. All children.
We'll have a header, followed by a nav, followed by article, followed by footer. Right? Sounds like a good plan.
This is hearkening back to the days that I was writing template toolkit mixed with HTML. This is interesting.
So our article is going to have a header one, hello world, and we'll call this page title. And our footer, what should we have in our footer? Just like a copyright text. I don't know,
yeah, copyright.
Copyright.
And your Patreon address.
I wonder if I could do this. Copy. No, 2023. There you go. So this is what's called a entity. HTML entity is how you define special symbols. I can actually magically type copyright symbol on my keyboard because I know the codes. But I want to see if this works. If not, we'll just put the Unicode character and away we go. Navigation. What's in our navigation? I guess we want a normal way of doing navigation on web is an unordered list with a series of list items. So this could be, let's just, come on, give me some menu items here, Randall. Come on. What do you want?
Details.
Some pages.
Supporting us. Supporting.
No, just come up with some page names. I know.
Shows. Video. Yeah. Other websites. Links. Yeah, links.
Other link. What do they call link tree or something? Do they? I don't know. Links. It's called links. Contact us. There you go. There you go. About.
Pay us.
Well, about is kind of the homepage, right, for us. But yeah. All right, so there you go. And then header, I guess we could put a. I guess we'll just use text as a placeholder right now. I'll say Flutter
FAQ. FAQ would be a good one too.
Do anyone read FAQs anymore?
I read the Q's and sometimes the F's. I sometimes
Right.
read the F's.
So, all right. So that's like a kind of basic structure here. Let's hit save. There you go.
Oh, look at that. All right.
So we have exactly what I didn't interpret it, but I think that's because
It's probably escaping.
Save. And
Oh,
yay, it worked. Okay.
killer.
So if you wanted to, you could put like HTML tags in here then and do like, so we could say color. Oh well, no, let's not do that. Let's do what's it called? Font color. Okay. Let's do old HTML.
Oh my god. Angle brackets.
There you go. Now it's red, right?
Oh wow.
Okay.
Oh.
Anyway, back to the real world. We don't do that anymore because we have CSS styles. But
my 20-year-ago brain is calling me now.
Oh yeah,
saying,
right.
Don't come back. Don't come back.
All right. So let's. Okay, so this is nice, but it doesn't look like anything right now. But this is about getting the structure down right now. So I guess we want the footer bar to always be at the bottom of the screen and sticking to the bottom of the screen. I don't know. We could definitely have the yeah. So I guess the top we can let's have the header stick to the top of the screen and put it up and all that kind of jazz. So one of the things you probably want to do as doing website is to, if you're in Chrome, enable your inspector. Your inspector lets you see and highlight and see the layout of things, as you can see here. This is super helpful when you're trying to do edits. And then also you can see the styles that are applied, specifically the computer styles, so you can see the layout. So this is all to help you do the debugging, right? Okay, so let's go back to our code. And this is where CSS styles comes in. And I'm sorry for everyone because no one likes CSS styles. All right, so I guess we want a white background. Our header, so this is a header tag now. I guess we'll put our header in background color. I know. Yeah, dark gray, and we'll put our text color to white. What else do we want on there?
Link. No,
I guess we want some padding. We'll put some padding. Ooh, that's too much. Let's do 0.5, 0.25. So.
Oh, nice.
So just to be clear, so the padding is, I gotta remember this now, top, right, bottom, left. I think it is in order. Let's just find out. If I put, if I put, well, you can go read up on it. Basically, if you only use two, it's symmetric. So it's going to use the same on the top and bottom as it is on left and right. So this is top and bottom. This is left and right. But if I now put a third one in there, like 1 EM, 0 EM, right? Something like this. We're now saying I want 0 on the right edge because that's the last one, and 1 on the bottom. So it's top, right, bottom, left. Yeah, is the ordering.
Yep, clockwise. Clockwise.
If you only put 2, it's symmetric, and if you only put 1, it's the same all around. If you want to, you can also do things like padding, dash, and then specify an override for just that one area. So we could say we want the padding to be symmetrical, but then on the right to be 10. It's probably saying here we can combine this to make this shorter. Yeah, there you go. Right. Anyway. All right. So there's your little basic CSS history. There you go. Right. So put that back to how we had it. Obviously, we can start putting graphics in here. We can start doing all that. I'm trying to keep this simple. I want us to do functional work right now. Okay. So okay. Yes. So let's turn our bullet pointed list into a series of links and navigation. Okay. All right. So nav. let's put a different background color behind our nav. Do we have like a, let's do what, orange? Yeah, sure. It's gonna look terrible right now. There you go. All right. Why do we have a gap? Now we do have a gap, and that's probably because maybe one of these has a default margin. Let's have a look. Not that one. Okay, not that one. Let's have a look. This is where the debugging comes in. So nav, this area, header, that area. Now that's interesting because I see no reason why that should not be underneath that. Aha. No, it can't be the pattern because the pattern's on the inside. Border, margin, none. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Okay.
If only we had dev tools. Oh, we do have dev tools.
Hang a minute. No, they're both block. Height.
Is there some margin on the? Oh, yeah. I guess if that,
I wonder.
has to be
Oh,
that.
look. Overflow initial. It can't be that. No.
This is where we need HTML experts to be watching us and answering our questions.
Really, I mean, I'm pretty much. Well, this is why we're learning, right? We're learning. All right, header.
Danielle left just knowing we would be coming up against this. I know that.
It's just inspired.
Hold her feet to the fire when she's here next time.
I'm honestly
I've got a hard out.
Any reason why, and I mean, it would make sense if there's a text in between these two, but there's not.
Turn on selection mode and click that area.
Unless it's line. Oh, someone maybe try and turn on selection mode and click that area. This one. It's saying it's the outside div tag, which is kind of what I see. Which is.
Who's providing
let's
that?
See what happens if I delete some stuff here and just. Oh look, hang a minute. Is it that? Is it that because there's that? Where'd that come from?
We do need to think in HTML, and you'd recommend using this framework when you're wanting to build HTML directly and not going through Flutter, and you wanted great SEO, and you happen to be very happy with.
No, you can use the framework directly. So let's try that. So the point of this is that I didn't actually use those. I'm just going straight for web dev because that's what I'm doing, right? The Jasper stuff does actually allow us to. That's what layout's for here, right? So center applies these tags, page. I think maybe I wonder if it's a page thing. Let me just try getting rid. I feel like let's see what happens when we get rid of page. I have no idea. Let's just try it, right? Like, what could possibly go wrong?
Yeah.
Nope. Did nothing. All right. That can go back in because right. Let's go back to components here. I wonder if there's some top level. No, I was going to say maybe. I just want to check something here. Hang on. Body. No, it's not that. No. That was a stupid idea, Simon. Right. I'm wondering if this is maybe something that's been. No, it can't be just that. That's the first for me. I have not got a clue. Anyway, let's go back up to what we were doing here and try some of these other things. Where it's a layout. So as we were saying, the center, spacer, padding, and we can use all these things: container, column, and this just applies the flex stuff. I wonder if it's because You know what? Maybe it's because it's not in a column. All right, let's try it. Let's just put column around all of this and see what happens. And let's just replace this with columns and see what happens. Hey, it worked. I think what we just got caught out by is the reset thing I was talking about. So the browser is applying certain behaviors. So normally you can see them in the computed styles though. So I was quite. So this is because it's putting using the display flex rather than display block. Perhaps line height, because I'm zoomed in. Perhaps the line height. I don't know. Let's just not worry about it. Let's use column and move on with our lives.
Yep.
All right. So we can do things where we're building widgets and not using tags as well. Just not starting tags to be clear with this. So I'm taking this approach because it's the way I've always done it. But let's try the more Jasper-y approach. So let's do a stateless component, and we'll call this top nav, I guess. So you're still going to have to think about it. Anything you draw on the web is still going to use I need to set up some templates for these. It's still going to use HTML and CSS, right? That's the whole reason we're doing this, right? But the idea is that we don't have to use JavaScript, and we can actually have type safety, and we can actually use the framework and use set state and that kind of thing, right? So all right, so moving on. So we want to return back I wonder if we can do stuff from here. Yeah, container, color. So we could probably do this and avoid doing the CSS. I don't know. I'm not too convinced, to be honest. Right. So we want to have a series of buttons, right? So we'll do a row, I guess. And do we need expanded? I don't think we need expanded. I think by default on web, everything works like expanded. Flex wrap.
No.
Wrap. Let's try it. What have we got to lose? Let's try it. So let's take these 4 bits of text. Interesting. Let's pop them in here. And then I'm going to wrap this thing in a nav widget. Again, it does nothing right now apart from apply the style. But by doing this, we get that flexibility we were talking about earlier. Right. All right. And missing commas. Okay, what do we get? That looks promising. Slightly better. How do we get them to be equally spaced? That's a good question.
Flutter 3.13.1 just dropped.
3.13.1?
Yep, brand new stable.
That probably contains the bug fix we were talking about earlier because they were cherry picking it the other day.
Yep.
Yesterday? Today? I don't know. All right. That's the Flutter team talking about. All right. I guess we're going to do what do we want to do? CSS. And this is called the flex model. Space evenly. Oh. Justify content. Oh, go away.
That content better be justified.
Okay, so flex end, flex start, center, space around, space between. I kind of, can we not just like do a stretch? How do I? Hold up. So there you go. There's an example here. Page wrap, section, nav, aside. Yeah, nav. So page wrap, flex model. And then we're saying, so flex of 1. So can we give a flex weight to each one and put a flex in there? I wonder if we wrap. I don't think it has. I don't think I saw anything in here with. All right. Well, we're learning. We're learning. So let's try this. Let's do DOM component tag span. Span is like an inline element.
Yeah.
It means it's not going to do line breaks by default. So that's kind of like a default thing. And then on these components, we want to apply a style. I'm going to put a class and we'll call it nav. In fact, what am I saying? We want links around this, don't we? So if we put href. Sorry, bear with. I was thinking out loud here. All right, so I was just doing a bit of magic there. So these are the links that we'd go to, like so /home /shows links FAQ contact, right? Something like that. These are A links, right? These are anchors. This is how you link between content. So if I save this, we get that lovely blue anchor that you normally see. Now what we can do is tell it to apply a style in our CSS to all anchors inside the navigation. So if we go back to our style sheet, we can say nav A, and then we can say display block. It might be inline block actually. If we get flex 1, save. Oh, it worked. Look at that.
Really? Wow. That's like you planned that. And that's responsive too, isn't it? If you expand the page.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
how nice.
Text align center. There you go.
You want a responsive we deliver in the first hour.
So these are all equally take up an equal amount. So what happens when it's smaller? See, that's the problem I don't like. But
it works. It's still workable link.
It is, I guess. I don't know. And then what's going on with height? Why have we got a is that because I did block? Maybe inline block. Hang on. No. I'm just forgetting my. All right, so let's get rid of that blue and make them what? White. You can put if it's by the way, if it's you can put the word white in there. You can learn your RGB color codes. If it's the same RGB value for red, green, blue channels, you only have to put 1 letter in, so you can do a shorthand of 3. People are wondering. All right, and then we want text decoration. Display decoration none. Get rid of the underline. All right, and then I guess we want to vertically center this. There is a vertical line middle, but I don't think it's going to make any change in this. No. Again, this is the CS. This is the problem with CSS. Like I'm doing things. It gives me the options, but it does nothing in this situation. So the way you can do this is set the line height, say to 2 EM. That's 2 M units. And then your vertical line should take effect in that, if I remember rightly. It's been a while. See something else. I'm obviously this flex model is doing some other behavior here because I'm not expecting. That's not the behavior I was expecting. Let's just see what's going on. So flex of row. Again, there seems to be a gap. There seems to be this gap in the bottom of the, so I wonder if it's because of the extra tag in some fashion, like in the way that the model works. What happens if I turn off some of these styles? Let's have a look. So if you want to debug stuff, you can actually just untick them and turn them off and see how it changes. So that's correct. That's not. Yeah, I can't see that anything in here that's particularly like, oh, that's interesting. Turn the flex off and it's okay. Turn the flex on and it magically uses up, say, more vertical space.
Wow.
That is mental. It literally doesn't, like, there's no rhyme or reason for that at all. I can see it here. I'm sure some web expert is going to come along and tell me, like, but I look at that and go, this is what pisses me off about web development, to be honest. But all right, let's carry on with what we're doing. I want to vertically align those. I wonder if I can wrap them in a center widget and do it that way. Let's try that. And then we want it so that when we hover over a link, we get a different color. Let's just do a different color. This is like really lame web development right now. Black. And we'll put an underline on. There you go. So save that. And now when I hover over,
when links used to do that kind of by themselves, that was really nice. Now we reset all the CSS and we lose all that.
So here he goes. If I wrap a center around these links, no, actually it'd be a center. Well, that's it. I don't know. Let's find out. So we're saying if we wrap a center around it, hit save, what happens?
Yep.
It breaks. All right.
Yep.
But
undo.
This is adding an additional widget with a flex, right? So the direct children are no longer the right flexibles. Yeah. So display flex, justify center does not have a flex of 1. So if I was to add flex of 1 to this, there you go. Okay. So our center widgets are the things that need the flex, not the A tag in this situation. It's interesting that this says display flex, justify content. So I wonder if I just put display flex here, if magically it works. I don't know. I'm going to try it. I didn't close my page. I think I closed my page. Site. Oh no, it's there. So let's get rid of center. I just want to see what happens. And see what happens. Still takes up more vertical space. All right, let's put center back. And I guess it's a direct div tag. So we should be able to put nav div. So there's 2 ways of applying styles. You can apply them in your style sheet, or you can apply them per element, to be clear.
Flutter upgrade should work if you're tracking stable. Answering a question in the chat.
I'm really frustrated by this right now. I'm like, why are you?
Yeah, I wanted to work too. I was really excited for about 10 minutes here, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh no.
Well, let's just move on with our lives. Like, there's no point fussing.
Right.
All right. Not when we're. See, what's really interesting about this is it seems to be the height of 2 lines.
Yeah.
for some reason, even when there's only one. So there must be something I'm missing. I'm gonna have to read up about the flex model. I just haven't used it enough. All right, so let's move on here, and then oh, that's a good
Make the
point.
links
Actually.
do something.
Go on. Well,
You make the links work would be nice.
I just want to try something here.
No.
All right. Let's get back to what we were doing here, which was, yeah, I'm going to try and avoid custom style sheet stuff for a while here. Just I don't want to like detract away. We're going to leave it with some padding right now, and then move on with our, as I said, move on with our license. I'm still doing it. Right. What just happened? Wait, what? I put 2EM, and because I put it on the wrong one. Oh, ignore me.
Mm.
Right. There we go. No, way too much.
It's looking. Wow.
There we go.
Oh.
That's it. Moving on. Right.
Yeah. Ship it. Ship it.
Right. So we've got our links, and what we want to do is have
Link them
our
somewhere.
have our page content. So we got our row article. It said spacer, didn't it? I feel like, yeah, see, spacer is just like an amount to fill in. How do we get, I feel like expanded is what I'm missing here. If we want the same behavior, I don't see it, if that makes sense. So I feel like it's kind of interesting, but yeah, it doesn't provide a one-to-one. So I need to look into this. Okay, for the moment, I guess we can put article flex of 1, and that should solve this. Let's have a look. Article flex 1. Let's see what happens. And why no work? So div tag. Okay. So our top level page is not set to 100% of the height, and that's what's causing this problem. So let's go back to our site, and it's a column. Sorry. Can we add an additional? I'm already disappointed. So it has default styles, but it doesn't provide all the rest of the parameters here. So how do I get this? I guess I can say the first div tag in the body. That's pretty lame, but I'll do it. Yeah, let's force some habit. Right, and then we'll put this at height 100. We're treating this like a web app because it's supposed to scroll, but there we go. Look at that. Now the copyright's at the bottom. Yay. All right, and then header and footer we'll treat the same, just to make our lives easier right now. There we go. So now we have a header, footer, page content, and some links. And if the page is resized, then it resizes. You were talking about responsiveness. I don't know if you mean like the true responsive for a web browser. We go into mobile mode and it looks different, and then you can then have your app do something different, and you can definitely do that.
Cool.
I'm not really 100%. So we can actually scroll up and down and see what this looks like. But for that's what it would look like right now on mobile, at least with our current layout, which is pretty much how we expect it to. So that's good. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So how do we do navigation? I think that's kind of one thing that people get confused with. So if I click on these links right now, let's see what happens. Let me just close a bunch of this stuff and get back to our content. All right, save. So if I click on shows, what's going to happen? Wow, not found. That's because, and I feel like this is a kind of bug, and that is that the web dev serve engine does not direct all URLs to the index page. I feel like there should be an option for that, so I might do might put a PR in for that and see if they will accept it, right?
Ooh.
But you can solve this locally. Okay, so without having to restart the engine or anything. So the way this works,
You make your 404 page be the index.
and you can actually, that's used to be what you used to do. No, so it's not that, but what we can do is on the client side. So when you click on these links, rather than it going to the actual URL, we tell it to handle we handle the click event ourselves, and that's what we want to do here. So what it feels to me like what we now want to do is have another stateless component, and we'll call this nav item, because those items are getting a bit unwieldy, right? And what do we want our nav item to do? We want it to have sorry, just bear with me here a second.
Your constructor is named wrong.
All right, sorry, moving on. I had to answer a quick message. So nav item. So what do we want as our parameters for nav item? I guess we want the label that we're displaying, the URL that we want it to represent, the href.
Yep.
And I guess we can just add like a void callback for on click, right? Make sense?
Okay.
On tap. Okay. So let's pop them in here. So required this dot on tap href label. All right, and now we've done that. We want to turn one of these items. So let's take that out of here, chuck it in here, and we can instead of doing a return, we can also do sync star yield. I'm just going to change it up a bit just to show you the other way.
Oh.
Same difference for anyone who didn't know. There you go. And then on our link, we can actually use a link widget, by the way. It's the same difference. Yeah, target would be the href, but we'll use a tag. Right, so we want a event, and the event is going to be the click event. Now, these are listed in what's called MDN. So if you ever want to know about web and stuff, you want to go to MDN, the Mozilla Developer Network. There you go. And this has lots and lots of resources. There you go. The box model is the standard model for web browsers, and how block, inner block, inline all work, and how they line up on the web page, and that kind of fun stuff. You've also got the flex model, which is the new one that we're just trying out, where it does rows and columns and things. I'll put this in the chat for those that want to learn a bit more. Right, moving back onto this. Sorry, I just want to stay on track here. So you can go look up click, and we can also deal with click in the Dart. You can also find it inside the documentation here. So if I went to anchor, is it link or anchor element? Yeah, anchor element. This should let us know it's gone on click handler or click handler. It might be in the base class, because I think every widget has a click handler. Anyway, I can't bother finding it. Crap, where was I? Oh yeah, I was in here. Right. So click, and when we do a click, it wants a function, and we can go look this one up. But the function pass is the same in JavaScript. You get given the event for the function, and you choose what you want to do. Now, if you don't tell it on a link to stop doing perform the default action, it will go to the same web page as /home. We're taking over the need to navigate and doing it ourselves. So what we actually want to do is say event as event, because it's dynamic by nature. This gives us the typed event. Now, you don't have to do it this way, but it has every event has a prevent default. This is how you stop it from doing the navigation normally. And instead, what we want to do is to call out on tap function. So basically what we're saying here is prevent the default action from occurring and call out on tap handler, right? So that's exactly what we're doing. Not async sync start. Right. So that is pretty much where we want to be. We replace this with href, this with label, and now our nav items, pop them in here, and we're going to take our hrefs, label, and now we want an on-click handler for each of these as well, and on tap, sorry. So on tap, and then we can direct to what we want to do. So I guess we want it to load some different content, right? So for the moment, we'll have a, maybe we should have a, we could, instead of having a, I tell you what, instead of having a void callback, we could pose this, actually, yeah, let's do this. I'm going to do this slightly differently. We're going to, this will be quicker and it will make more sense, okay? So just bear with me here. We're going to get rid of on tap. We're still, instead, what we're going to do is do like a navigator of, right? This is what everyone's used to. Whoops, navigator of context push href. Yeah, that's what we want to do. Well, navigator, if I click on that, that's like some, it's an inbuilt class for the browser, which is fine, but we want to use this name ourselves. So what we do instead is go up to the very top, and when we import Dart.html, we say hide navigator, right? Now, navigator is an unknown class. Now we get to make our own navigator. So what we want to do, we're going to make a stateful widget and navigator. And obviously, we can separate these all into separate files and stuff. I'm just making this quickly. I'll post it up online, by the way, all this code if people want to try it out. Okay, so we've got navigator, stateful code. I guess what we want to do is have routes, something like that. This is not exactly like navigator, but this will do for our simple example, right? This dot routes, and then that's going to be a map of string to, do we have component builder? Async component builder. All right, routes. I have no idea what that is. Let's have a look. Probably not what we want. Async snapshot. No, we want a no. Oh, maybe it's just builder. Oh, that's a good point. Maybe it's probably just builder. Is it builder? No, that's a widget. I want this single component builder. So I have to make sure. So yeah, this takes, so we get given a build context and we return back the component for the page. That's exactly what I want. I'm just muddling through right now. All right, so this is required. And we'll have a static navigator state, let's make it public, of build context.
It seems like even though it's borrowing a lot of the terminology from Flutter, there's still quite a lot to understand about its architecture.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's not a one-to-one, but it's pretty damn close. So I feel like it's enough to take a Flutter developer, make them a web developer, right?
Okay.
Iterable components. Oops.
At that point, it'd be full circle. That'd be funny.
Right? That's what I was thinking as well.
Yeah.
Right. And then you. Okay. So we've got a little widget here. It's got an of method. So now navigator of above is going to use this static method to find the navigator state in the hierarchy, and then use this to change the navigation. So if I now go up to our site, this is like our top level app, right? We can now wrap our column. Yeah, let's wrap our column. In fact, there's no wrap, so I'll just do this. Navigator routes, and we'll have our routes, and we'll have our slash v. We need a builder for that, some context. I guess we need some pages now for each one of these sections, right? So I'm going to start pulling this out in a second, but for the moment, let's make a page frame. Yeah, page frame extends stateless component. It has a. I need to make some. Definitely make some. What they call templates in the IDE for this, because this is long. Right. And I guess we want this dot content or something. This dot child. Let's do that. Required component child. So this is just like widget, right? All right. So now we've got that. I can bring down my page content of a column. This is my frame. This is like the stuff I'm always going to want to return. And in the, I guess we probably want title in here as well, something like that. String title. Okay, and so now if we replace title in here, and then article is going to have its child as the body or something. I don't know, child. All right, so that's kind of like our frame of the page. And now we can have a home page also be a component, blah, blah, blah. And a home page, it's not going to need anything, so we'll get rid of all of that. Get rid of those. All right, so now a home page is a page frame, and inside that page frame, bear with. Right, so we want this to build a home page.
Just joined the Jasper Discord community and said, "Come over and help us."
All right, so we're gonna have our what are our things here? Here we go. These. Put them up here. And so we're going to have home page. That's going to be a page frame.
Oh, look, here we go. Hello, Jasper community here. All right, we're saved.
It's like, all right, title. Oh yeah, of course it's not going to work without my title. All right, let's see. All right, so this will correspond home, and our content is going to be just text. This is the homepage. Cool.
For Code Doctor, we're building the navigator. We've got a kind of a home page that shows it up in the upper left corner there, and we're building the navigation rail, trying to tie it into various pages.
Shows page, links page, links, shows. Oops. This is shows. This is quickly just make a bunch of links.
They say looks nice. Looks nice. Good. We got affirmative from the Jasper community.
FAQ page and FAQs.
You know, we need somebody from there to come on and just be the whole show next week.
Well, I should go get. Can he? No. Is he around? I'll find out if he's around.
I don't mean to distract you, but yeah, that would be cool though. Luckily, my hard out is no longer.
I've missed it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Your hard outs.
No, they canceled it, so I'm
Oh,
free.
even better. Hey,
No,
all right,
no.
carry on now. Right,
I'm free for another 2 hours, but don't take that as a suggestion.
Well, I don't want to do that either. So I want to carry on. But
Yes.
okay, so contact us. I've reached out to Killian to see if he can join us. So
Okay.
all right, so that's the author of the package, by the way. Anyone's watching,
Sure.
right? So all right, so now we've got some page templates. Let's chuck them in. So it shows links. Shows links. Oh, I must have missed contact us. Contact and FAQ. Page. All right, so homepage shows links, FAQ, contact us. Here's our routes. So this is our top level like app/site component. It has a navigator that just takes up the sort of top level navigation. We got our page frame with each of our page contents. Page frame provides some sort of semblance of layout and structure. Mm-hmm. We've got our top nav, which is a row with our nav items. And when you tap on one of those nav items, it goes to the navigator of and tries to push a route. In this case, now we have the navigator with our set of routes. We need to do two things. It doesn't have a child, so we need to make sure that it generates the default route. And then secondly, we want it to update the screen appropriately, I guess. So I guess that's where we're at now. So, all right, so we need a push command in here. So void push string href. I guess we'll match on path. So we need to say, path route. We'll make sure route equals path equals URI path href path. So this just gets like it's part of the URL. It's called the path. I won't go into it right now. That's the bit that we've been looking at / and then whatever it is after that. So this way, if you put like a query string, like question mark and some parameters, we don't consider those part of the route name. All right, so now we want to go look this up. So we say not widget, it's component to get to the own component state, routes, path. And this gives us a route. And if the route doesn't exist, well, we can say, so if this is null, we can throw no route.
No way home.
Obviously, this is pretty dumb right now, but no route with name path, right? So at least that way it kind of gives us a go. Now, if we get the route, however, we want to go to it. So we want to take advantage of the fact that the browser maintains the history and the back and forward buttons. So the way we do that is with window. Yeah, hang on. Yeah. This. All right, Killian might join us. I don't know. He just said, "Are we still on?" So I was like, "Okay, yes."
I hope we're still on.
All right, so
people watching. That's the important part.
Okay, so we got our push, and we need to work on our state here. So what we want to do is, I guess we want to have a default route, and then we want to build the appropriate route that the page is currently on. Okay, so to take advantage of the history of the window, we need to say, history of the browser. It's window.history, which is the API. Now this is all documented. So if you go into, he said it's coming. So if we go into the Dart HTML documentation, look up window, you'll find there's a top level property. This is what I'm using. This is this window here. We can command click on it and go to it. Window returns. This is how all JavaScript works, right? JavaScript has like this namespace. Window is the top level global namespace for the DOM and browser stuff. Okay. Anyway, top level container of the current browser tab or window. And this is where you get to the document and various things. Here you can see we have like console, crypto, blunders things, including history. The history property gives us a history object. And this is it, loading web pages from WhatWG. That's the standard, by the way, WhatWG. And it gives us history. Now the history has, funny enough, back, forward. That's what happens if you press the buttons in your browser. Go back a certain number, go forward a certain number, I guess. Push state, replace state. And these are the magical ones. Now, this is how Flutter works. Oh, sorry, let me move this up. For those sorry. So push state and replace state are the two magical things that we actually want to pay attention to right now. So not very handy in this state because they're just wrappers around the JavaScript. But I explain what happens. So when we go to push something, we obviously want to push the state. And it basically says, what is the URL that we want to update in the browser? What is the title we want to show to the browser? And what is the data? This is like any data we want, any state that we want. So what we can put in here is our path, which is our route. So this would be our route builder, actually saying that. We could put, so I kind of feel like we kind of want maybe a little model object. Oh, we can use records, can't we? Can we use records? Oh, no, let's try records. So
of course we can use records. Yeah.
Path, route, why not? And then title. I'm going to leave that blank for now. And then URL is our href. Okay. So this is basically saying, go to this href. It will show that in the browser tab. And then this is the state that we have to look forward to and deal with. And then we also want to do set state. Now, this is kind of actually saying that we could.
I was just thinking, do we have records? So, well, Dart2.js has to be able to handle records.
Oh, Killian's here. Hang on. Should we bring him on? Hey, there you are.
Yay.
Welcome.
Look what's on the screen.
Have you been on the stream before? I don't think you have actually.
I haven't. No.
Oh, welcome. Do you want? I tell you what. Do you want to introduce? I mean, this make things bigger. There you go. Do you want to introduce yourself at all to the people watching? I don't know how many people are watching now.
Yeah. This is super spontaneous. I was just like having dinner, so.
Oh, sorry. You don't have to stick around. I was fun to send it over and say, if you want to join us.
No, definitely. I'm Killian. I'm a Flutter developer for I guess now 3 or 4 years. I'm developing a couple of open source packages for Dart and for Flutter, and now mainly Jasper, I guess, which you already introduced. So I love contributing to open source and maintaining the packages and do that as much as I can in my free time.
Well, it might be worth. So we had a couple of little interesting, fun things along the way, investigating and trying to understand. You're going to see firsthand someone using your package without any sort of previous experience here. So
with,
it might be
any
worth
knowledge, zero knowledge.
Zero knowledge. It might be worth checking out the recording, so you might be able to see the pain points that we had, and then you might be able to better some of the documentation. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. That's the best way to get.
However. Now we have you.
Now so far.
Now we have you here. We can continue. We're just saying we're going to add a navigator, right? So just like a Flutter has a navigator, we're just doing a little navigator widget. Because as far as I can see, there was no component built in to do this, right?
There is a router package.
Oh, there is a router package. See?
Now he tells us.
Now he
Where
tells
were you
us,
10 minutes ago?
That's all right. So are we saying that there's a separate Jasper router?
It's a separate package. It's Jasper router.
Oh, you mean the one that I just clicked on, and there it is. I'm going to continue this because I feel like I wanted to show this off, and we're halfway through this. I feel like it might be fun,
go ahead.
Fun to learn. But this is why we should read the documentation, right?
Yeah.
So all right. So when we start up. I guess we want to be told what the initial route is. And so we're just doing this with client side only right now. No server side rendering. So it's just using web dev. Anyway, initial route. I mean, Phil, do you have any questions, Randall, for Killian about the package or anything? I don't know.
Because you're trying to get me to stall for
No, I'm just like it's just like.
So my understanding, our understanding so far, is that this is somewhat mimicking the Flutter widgets, but it does require its own sort of understanding and architecture, learning in order to make it work, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like it's meant to be familiar to Flutter and mimic Flutter in a way that it like has the same structure when it comes to like how you compose the UI. But it's not Flutter itself, so like that's important to have in mind. Like you can't use Flutter widgets directly. That's also one of the reasons I named it components and not widgets, to like be clear about that. Like you can't return a widget from a component build function because it looks the same, but it's actually not. But like all the architectural stuff and like all that, like for a developer coming from Flutter, like your way around stateless and stateful widgets, you know what they are, like inherited widgets, how they function, and like all that structure kind of stuff is like on a conceptual level the same. So
And how do we get theming? I mean, how with Flutter out of the box, I can make a material looking application. Can I make a material looking application with Jasper?
So like theming as it is in Flutter is not there yet. So you won't find like a material app. You won't find like a theme kind of stuff. Simply because I didn't find a way yet to do that good, because like theming is a thing that like with web works fundamentally different than it does in Flutter. With like you write CSS and then give your elements classes and apply styles like that. So it's not easy to translate that to like the Flutter way of theming. So right now you would write your styles, your CSS styles, and apply that to the elements you have. And you can, I guess you can build like a theming around that, but it's not in the framework yet.
Can I take stuff that the material team has prepared for web and drop it in here and work with that?
Yeah, I've done some experiments to like use the material web components and use that with Jasper, and that kind of worked. You have to do some stuff around like as soon as you do server-side rendering, obviously you can't import JavaScript libraries on the server, so you have to make a distinction to only use those components on the client. But generally it works like you render the element like a div or a button or whatever with Jasper, and then you apply the material JavaScript library around that, and that then takes care of like all the interactivity or maybe stuff like the ripple effect and stuff like that.
Would this be similar to jQuery UI, where we did essentially client-side aggregates of existing DOM elements?
I'm not familiar with jQuery UI.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
I'm old.
One other
technology.
I guess one other thing to theming is that Jasper has now support for Tailwind. So as a Flutter developer, you might not know this, but like when you come from the web side of things, Tailwind is like a very popular styling solution for websites. And
so there's a few of those, right? Like you've got let me get this right. You got Bootstrap is quite another popular one. There's a few of them, and all those are kind of like just like what we've been dealing with. The problems we've been doing right now is like you always have to reset your styles. You have to have a whole like set of standards classes you could have then applied that are named and documented, so you don't have to like start from scratch, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
like that come with pre-built components and pre-built styles and so on. Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. It makes
That's
life a
also
lot
like
easier.
one thing I'm not sure about yet. Like with Flutter, you have all these inbuilt widgets, like Material or Cupertino library. When you look at like web development, there are already a lot of solutions out there, a lot of those component libraries out there. So I'm not sure yet if I want to like basically reinvent those in Jasper itself, or just like make it open so that you can use those libraries
Yeah.
with Jasper. I guess that's the more easier way, at least. And yeah.
Well, we have full JavaScript interoperability here, right?
Yeah.
At least on the client side. So shouldn't be too tough, I
Yeah,
guess.
exactly. And you should be able to use that. And
Cool. Probably even use jQuery UI if I wanted to be really ancient.
yeah.
Well, my friends are kicking me because I keep talking about jQuery, but hey, that was my only way I could tolerate JavaScript 20 years ago. So
Okay. So there's again there. So basically what we've got now, you can do, when it first starts up, it's going to find your initial route from the routes list. We get that route. We're going to replace the current state. This is so that we set the history state inside the browser, and then we update the URL. Just why not? It's probably a slash already, but that's fine. And then when we go to display the widget, the components are on the screen, we get the current state as a navigation route, and then call the builder that's stored there and return back that component, right? That's kind of how we go this at the moment. There's no animations, it's just direct display this. So push should work by when we find that new route, we push that same new, again, the new route states that the builder is set. Now when you do set state and it calls this, the builder will now return back the new widget for the new screen, and it will update the URL. So the only thing I think we need to handle now is pop. So when it comes to pop, I guess we want a stream subscription. So we want to listen to the browser to know when a back event has occurred. I think it's called a pop event or something, isn't it? Pop state event. There you go. Sub. All right, and we'll call this pop sub. Yeah.
I can already hear Killian screaming, "I already did all this in the router."
Well, we're here now, right? And I think everyone, it's kind of nice to learn about the browser in this way. So
Okay.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to know how it works.
Yeah.
So then we want to say window dot, on pop state dot listen, and then we want to avoid on pop event, and that's going to subscribe. And then when we dispose, we want to cancel that. All right, so now when someone hits back, we're going to get this pop event, and the event stores state, which is the same as what we're looking at down here, which we don't really care about because it will update the Windows tops level state. We just care that we need to set state here. So we could say set state. Interesting, I'm using this because I figured that was probably the right way, but looking at this, maybe a nicer way of not depending on that would be to store it ourselves. I don't know. Either way works.
I'm not sure.
Gone.
I like the idea of using the state. I was just wondering if that works with like if it needs to be serializable, so that the browser can store it somehow.
That's a good question. I don't know. Let's find out.
Let's find out. Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
Let's find out. I don't like this as a barcode smell to me, right? Like really, we should be taking what's coming in the event and storing that so that we can reuse it. So we're relying here on third-party history state being available and no one modifying it. If some other JavaScript comes along and modifies this, it's going to break our code. So let's just see how this works. So is it still running? Did I break it? Let's find out. Read. And then I'll refresh the page here.
Oh, it broke.
Oh yeah. Required parameter. Look, I've got a red mark here. Right. I didn't tell it what my initial page was. So initial route is /home. So even though we load without /home, because it's the default, it will load it. That's the way I've designed this right now. So let's try that again.
Ooh,
all right. Refresh.
Looks good. And
we fail. Refresh. Oh, something's not working.
That's the understatement of the day. Something is not working.
Something didn't work right. I don't have the debugger plugin enabled. So what we're going to do is we're going to use print statements because, why not?
Print until it works. Add print.
I'm not seeing. Oh, hang on a minute. Do you know what I didn't do? Click on console. Oh, look. Unimplemented structural clone of another. Look. See, he's right. Killian's right. I reckon that's what that is. So it's because we put a type in the state and it's not serializable. That's what that is. So let's do what I said and let's just have our state locally. So let's have something like current route. That makes sense. That makes sense.
You're going to build like the page stack in the real router.
No, we don't need to do that. But let's do this. So basically, we're saying current route equals this, and then we can just leave this as an empty object. It really doesn't make any difference to us. So that achieves the same result right now, at least temporarily. And then when we do a pop, we do set state, and we set current route to be event dot. We need the string for that. We need to know what route we're popping back to, don't we? So let me do this again. We'll put path in there. That makes the most sense, I think. We'll find out. What can go wrong?
Put null over here.
All right, and then this is current route equals route. And then down here, we're saying current route. Builder. Sounds like it might work.
With the on pop, the current route equals event.state. I guess now.
Oh yeah. This needs to be state dot. Oh no, that's right. Oh no. We need to look it up.
You should, I guess, exactly.
Yeah. All right. Save. Well, first of all, it worked there because it showed us the home page, right? So refresh. All right. So question here is, click on shows. Hit back. Well, we go back, so that's nice.
We can go off into nowhere and come back.
So we didn't get an error, so it definitely found it. Current route was definitely set to route. And we pushed the state because the URL updated in the. Oh, look, it works.
Really?
Yeah.
You're kidding. Wow, it works. Ship it.
Back.
All right.
So
the new Flutter community homepage right there.
That's interesting. The first time I click, it doesn't. After I refresh, but then if.
Weird.
I mean, this is expected not to work, this first page, right? But shows, look, blank.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I blame JavaScript.
Hit back. Shows, works. Back. So I'm lost for words there. I'm trying to think about like what might be causing that. So there's obviously something stupid in this logic because there's not that much to it.
Add print until.
All right. So the initial. So let's go here. So it's going to fresh load of the page. We're replacing the current state so that the current path string, which is the route, essentially the route name. Yeah, that's the route name, which would be the initial route in this case, is there. We can see that when we update the route on the page because it says /home. That's great. And then now if I click on something, it loads up the route because it works, sets that as the current route, set state so it rebuilds. I wonder if it's, I mean, the push state just updates like the state, like there's literally nothing to that, right? So this is just string full href, which is the same. All right, and the reason why it doesn't load that time is because we don't have, we can actually, to fix that, by the way, we can just set our home to this right now. Let me just do that, just for the hell of it. Right, back to our actual homepage. There we go. Shows, back, shows. Oh yeah, I didn't update the link. Where am I? Here. Do you know what?
Use the
Yeah, I
router.
have no idea.
Yeah.
It's interesting that it's failing the first time. Now we can step through and debug this, but I'll be honest with you, I'm not that concerned with it right now. But this is like basically I'm making a history by tapping on this, and if I hit back, we're going to go back through that history until we get back to how the page was loaded, which apparently is always this. But I can set that. Hang on. There we go. So now we're always going to load a new page. It's interesting that the first navigation just doesn't work, and then after that it's fine. It feels to me like, oh, that's really going to bug me now. I mean, what is it about? Why would it work after the first time? That just doesn't make any sense. We see a white page, right? I mean, it's just going to rebuild. That doesn't feel to me like it's a. I mean, look, let's do this. Let's do print current route, and let's see what happens. Right? Let's see if we get some debug in there for simple debug at least. Right? I know this is going to be really small for everyone, so apologies, but whatever. Right? Did I save this? I did. Okay, good. All right. So if I click on shows. Current route, shows page, has the constructor, the function in there correctly. Path shows. That.
Can you check the elements?
Sorry.
The element tree.
The element tree. Oh yeah. Let's have a look at that. No.
Third tab.
No.
That one.
Sorry?
Third tab.
Elements.
Yeah.
Why is that not? No.
It's completely empty.
Yeah, it's completely empty. I think that's not supposed to ever be like that. And
could always be a framework bug. Like
I think this might be a Jasper bug.
Yeah.
That's fine. All right. Well, anyway.
If only we had a way of reporting the bug to the office.
I wonder if there's someone that we can report this bug to. No.
I don't know.
I'm actually going to push this up online, so I'll link it. But it does feel like that.
What are you doing in 160? What are you doing in 166 hours?
It's the same time next week, right? All right. Well, anyway, so now we've got apart from that little thing, we've got our links and content flowing, so that's kind of nice. If we have it so that the server directs all the URLs to the same index page, then when this loads up, it would load up the right page. However, well, actually it wouldn't, because we always go to the initial route here. So we could actually, rather than specifying an initial route, we could tell it to load a route based on the current URL of the browser. So we could do something like I know let's call it initial browser route. I don't know. Brain initial
Naming is hard.
I know naming is hard. Right, initial route. So we would say window.location.href, and then this is just like the URL. So we would say uri.path. So essentially, it's going to get the path out the URL, and then it would use that to look up the initial route. And of course, at the moment, we just throw an exception if one's not found. So what we probably want to do is try and catch this. If we want to show a 404 page, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then say current route equals, and then we can have like a 404 builder. So if we were to have a we can have it optional, I guess. I don't know. No, I guess it's a web page, kind of one something you always want. I would say on route unknown. I think that's what it's called, on unknown route. And we'll just do that as a single component builder. And well, that's now added. I guess down here we can say if current route is null, then yield component dot on unknown route, like this. I don't really like the idea of doing that null. Not that it's it's probably better to have a sentinel value instead. So what we could say is something like we can have it private in here, and have something like static const unknown route, and then have that as a what was that, path. You could do like 404 or something special, right? And then the builder, I guess. Can we do like a blank builder? Not really. I'm just going to keep it simple. Let's just do that. Can't be bothered. Right, so it's nullable, and we'll set it to yeah. So we'll take this throw, get rid of it. Instead, if builder is null, return null. So we can't find our route. We'll return nullable. Then over here, when we navigate, if we can't find a route, we definitely do need to throw. So if route is null, then we'll throw that, I guess. And
is there an error handler? Does it go up to something like a 404 page?
Sorry, bear with me 1 second.
Yeah, Killian, is there like an error handler that can, by default, does something pretty?
You mean when the build function throws? Then yeah. No, not yet.
Okay.
So there's no like the no like red screen like there is in Flutter, no.
Wow. Okay. Just don't throw.
Yeah.
You'll see
no exceptions today.
You will see any exceptions thrown coming through on the browser, in the console in the browser for those that have done. So that's fine. All right. Sure. So okay, so we find our route. If it comes back non-null, then we'll update our current state to match it. If it's null, then it's unknown. And when it comes down to the bottom here, if it's null, then we call it on unknown route. If it's not null, then we can call out builder. And finally, when we build this at the top, we want a on unknown route. And for the moment, we're going to return back a center and text 404 not found. Something like that. Simple enough. Right, so save. That's not us, that's the default handler. So we've got no real way of testing this in this current environment because the web dev debug server does not direct all URLs to index. But if we were to publish this, we could. So I guess we should build this and see what happens, right? We can build it and publish it. Why not?
Sure.
What can possibly go wrong?
Everything.
Then I think we'll call it a day. All right, so not Flutter build. What am I saying? I'm going to do web dev build because this is client side only on. You do Jasper build, right, for when this is server side rendered and all the rest of it.
Yeah, I mean, you can also do Jasper build with client side only, but it just calls web dev build like
okay.
some parameters. But
all right, so that's
I guess
built
build.
this. Reload. Should have a build directory. And said build directory contains everything that we need to send up to GitHub pages or Firebase hosting or whatever.
Cool.
So if you give me a second with some magical copy paste publishing, I should be able to get this up on the GitHub, up on the Flutter community site. So let's see, and then everyone can try it out. I don't know.
Everyone crashing it. Yes.
Everyone can find out bugs. Right. Hang on, bear with.
But it's running in the browser. We can edit it all.
No, it works on my machine.
Yeah.
Right.
In fact, when you invoke it, it comes up on my machine. I don't understand why.
Right. All right. Let's.
Yeah, Keelan, if you've never seen the show, this is kind of how it goes.
No,
Easily trying to. Simon's hacking on something, and people are asking us questions.
I was here in the beginning, but then I left.
Oh.
So unfortunate, yeah.
Firebase. Okay, let's see. Firebase. What I'm doing. Firebase deploy only hosting. Please make sure your project exists on the account you have and permissions have access to it. Oh yeah, I'm logged into the wrong account. Oops.
Don't have permissions. Denied.
Permission. I have been denied.
That's right.
Yeah, I am on the wrong account.
How long ago was Wayne's World? It was like 20 years ago now? 25? I don't even want to look that up. I think that would be sad to know how long ago Wayne's World, the movie, was.
Oh, that's such a Wayne's World.
Yeah.
So excellent. Yeah. It's an epic film. That is. It's brilliant.
Yes.
What was his name? Mike Myers, right?
Yeah. And Dana Carvey.
Sorry, it's doing an update now. Lucky me.
Yeah.
What is it?
I was doing Cable Access about at the same time, so I was really relating to the fact that they're doing a Cable Access show.
was it quite? It's too close time, was it?
It was effectively similar in a lot of ways. We did a show called The Chess Show where we played a giant board game of chess.
Oh, that
and we brought in weird acts and stuff, but people would call in with random moves, and we had videos for check and checkmate and stuff. It was crazy in the control room. It was just nuts in the control room. Yeah.
what can possibly go wrong? All right, so let's see. It's publishing now. Beginning deploy.
Ooh, and you're going to give us
Deploying,
URL we can all go
deploying.
to?
Fluttercommunity.dev.
Really?
Yeah.
Here we all go. We're all going to crash it now. You can't crash. You can't crash.
It's like
Google,
challenge accepted.
Yeah, that's right.
I'll pop this on the screen, shall I? Hang on.
This is the homepage. I see it. I see it, and it goes to the white page just like they did before. Yes. Oh, and then it works after that first one. Oh, that is so cool. At least it works after the first one. Now we just need a pop up to say try again.
So it should mean that if I go /shows, it takes us to the shows page, like we programmed it.
Really?
Yay!
You're kidding? Oh my god, that's so cool. That is so cool.
Contact.
That's
takes us to
okay.
the contact page.
This proves even idiots can use Jasper and get it to do something within the first hour. Yes.
And if I hit, so
And by idiots, I mean us. You know,
the first click always, which is a shame. We need to fix that one.
Yeah.
But, so that's kind of cool. So what else? Oh yeah, if we do a bad URL, hey, 404 not found in the center, exactly as we programmed it. So there you go.
Great.
That's how. And to be clear, that there's a little flag on the Firebase hosting configuration. Firebase hosting, something like that. That when you configure your Firebase hosting, for those that want to, play along at home, there's a should get started, I guess. I don't know. Let's see.
There's the serve everything from index.
Okay, over here, configure hosting behavior, and basically it's standard rewrite behavior. So if I can find it in here, customize a 404 page. You go configure redirects and configure rewrites. This is the bit that you want. Configure rewrites, and in the config file, you add this little bit here. And what this is saying any URL that's not already managed by the hosting script, direct to index.html. So it serves this file for all the URLs, basically. And that's it. Simple as that.
Yep.
I'll pop that in the chat for the boost that want to try it out.
Now we got to go read how the real router works and do that.
Yeah, I leave that. See, this is why we have to leave stuff. We have to leave stuff for the audience to do. We did this on purpose.
Sure.
Yeah.
Left is an exercise for the reader.
Exercise for reader, exactly. I'll pop that link in the chat here. Actually, here, let's bring it up on stream. Why not?
Good.
So this is the official router package, I guess. So you add it, and then look, you get a router widget, and you can define your routes and builders and paths, just like we just did. How about that?
Just like you made, yes.
And you get the state come through. That's handy. It's an adaptation of GoRouter. Okay, so it's kind of like GoRouter, but not. Okay, cool. Router of package push path, just like we just spoke about. And you can do replace them back as well.
We built these by hand.
Lazy routes, code splitting. Oh, okay. So that's cool. So you can use deferred as. Nice. And so, and does it just? I see. So you do .lazy, and it will automatically load the other JavaScript and bring it up. That's awesome.
Ooh.
That's awesome. So yeah, there you go. I guess. What this doesn't do right now, this is just like load stuff. Right? Does it do any transitions or anything like that, or is that all?
No transitions.
No, yeah. I didn't think so. I just want to make sure I understood that correctly. Yeah. So,
is it possible to implement ads on Flutter Web?
Oh, is that what someone said? All right, let's go answer the last few questions, and then we'll call it a day.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm sure Killian wants to go eat his food.
No, I'm done.
Are you done now?
Oh,
too late. We can't stick around any longer.
Right. Come back next week, same time.
Maybe we should do another little show about this. This might be fun.
Yeah.
There you go.
Right. Well, what have we got here? Refresh the URL. Go to shows. Not working. question. I think that was about earlier, was it?
No, that was pretty recent. That was in the new stuff you just pushed.
Maybe you can explain, Sherman, what you mean. But
well, when you go to that page, when you hit reload when it says shows, does it work?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe it was from earlier. I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't
I mean,
worry about it.
it's the error that it doesn't work on the first time, right?
It doesn't work on the first click, right? That's some other issue I have to deal with. But after that first click, if you hit back and then go to anything else, it continues working. So
go.
Weirdly, if you go back and then if you go forward again, then it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just saying, go to the URL, click shows, it just shows blank. Yeah. Now if you hit back and then go to proceed onwards, it works fine. There's a bug, and we're not fixing it right now. All right.
Some lazy initializer.
We should use the proper router package, and it'll work, won't it?
Yeah, exactly. It should.
Sure.
Cool.
All right. Is it possible to implement ads on Flutter Web? Sure. I mean, show a picture and charge people to show that picture. You've made ads. I think you mean, can you use certain ad packages, and that's down to the ad package provider. The problem you've got is you want to be careful that you're not seen as faking clicks. And and that can happen if you're not careful. Use the official ad packages only. Don't use third-party ad packages, because your ad account might get banned, losing all finance that you might have in your ad account because you're seen as faking clicks. So that's what I'd say be warned of. But apart from that, I mean, if you put Flutter Web in the HTML renderer mode, it's probably fine, because then you can just put an element or whatever the JavaScript is for the ad library, and then it'll work. But yeah, it's all possible. All right, let's see what else we got quickly. I had a question earlier when we got to low coding. Can I ask it now? Well, you could have just asked it just now. But now the time is gone.
Yeah, we're out of here.
We're out of time now. So you had your chance. You have to wait 166 hours.
165 now, because we're in the third hour now. Yes. 164, because we're into the fourth hour.
Oh, God. Right. That's it. We're going.
I think ship it is the phrase here now.
Yeah. Well, we have. We shipped it. I'll publish the repo and hang on. No hot reloading in Flutter and Jasper embed. Not sure what you mean by that. I tell you what, come back next week and we'll explore some more Jasper. There you go. Right. Thanks very much for popping in, Gideon. I wasn't expecting someone just mentioned that we should get Gideon on here. I was like, okay, I'll ask him. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, and you're welcome to come back next week if you have time.
Yeah.
Apart from that, I think we'll end it here. So thanks for joining us, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the web code stuff. All right.
Yeah. Thanks.
Bye. Bye, everybody. Bye.